Hello, everybody. Why don't I see comments yet? I see comments on my cell phone. Hey, oh, Jackie, hi. Okay, here we go. I think. Okay, there we go. Heads up, 7 up. Hi. Sorry I kept delaying the StreamYard time. I've had a really busy day. Really busy day. And I just got home not too long ago. Lacey, hi, Liz. Hell to the no. How are you? Good to see everyone. Nana Patty, hi. I'm still, just give me 1 second. I'm still just trying to set up. Okay. I literally just got home like 10 minutes ago. So just give me like 1 more minute. I'm just going to mute. Okay. It will give time for people to come in as well. Okay. All right, everyone. So listen, I was thinking, um, and I know Lisa D on Anna Patty's has discussed narcissism. I think she touched a little bit on psychopathy, and um, and I felt too the more of us that discuss the topic, because I have subs that may not be subscribed to Nana Patty, um, as well, but I think it's important that we all become educated. Now, this stream is not to talk about anyone in particular. It is not to diagnose anybody. It is education. I'm going to learn with you as well. Um, uh, there's a lot that I already know about, and there's stuff that I don't either. Hey, knitting, buddy cat. Um, so I was thinking today, because I've really been shook up the past couple of weeks, and um, frustrated with, um, and a lot of us feel this way, that we all basically don't like to see anybody hurt. And we also, a lot of us, want to stop certain behaviors in people, whether it's online, whether it's in our own lives. And then we realize that we are truly powerless. So rather than focusing on engaging with a toxic person in your life or online, I think we need to learn how to escape rather than engage, um, and focus on self care. And I know it gets frustrating, and we all come to the point where you feel like you have to defend yourself. And I was thinking that, you know what? What does defending ourselves do? Does it change anything? No. There's an acronym in AA, the three C's. It's I didn't cause it, I didn't create it, and I can't cure it. And I'm really trying to implement that in my life, as I always have, when it comes to situations that are just out of my control completely. So the question is, what can I control? And the only thing I can control is myself and the actions that I choose. Um, so we're gonna talk about narcissism, psychopaths, and also touch a little bit on paths. Okay. Hey, J May Sunflower, welcome everyone. So I'm actually going to show some videos. Okay. And these videos, and I'll do commentary on them, are from their webcast from Dr. Frank Ochberg, who is a psychiatrist, and he specializes in PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. That's his specialty, with traumas, and that also includes trauma from narcissistic abuse, psychopath abuse, sociopath. And so there's a lot. So when you're a victim of a narcissist, a sociopath, psychopath, there's also recovery. And I think we fail to recognize that we deserve recovery when we're injured, just as if you broke a bone, right? You would take care of yourself. It's my StreamYard. Okay. So it's no different, except although, there is such thing as physical abuse also, but I'm not going to touch upon that. I'm going to touch more upon the emotional, mental aspect, the abuse of narcissism. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing. It's education. And I think we all always could use to become educated, to learn more, because knowledge is power. And I'm not saying the person in your life that's toxic, don't be going out and saying, well, you're a narcissist or you're a psychopath because Pink told me so. No, that's your journey to be on. But all we can do is teach each other the signs, the symptoms, and the tools that we can implement in our lives. And again, I think when it comes to people with narcissistic traits, BPD, borderline personality disorder, psychopaths, we certainly aren't in a position where we can treat. And I know there's a lot of people who have reached out to me who want to move on, and that's not to minimize anybody who is still wanting to talk about it with whoever the person is that's toxic in their life. That's not my intent. This is just for people who choose to move on, and don't want to have to engage anymore with the behavior, but escape. Hey, Debbie. So thanks, Mrs. Muppets. Thanks for coming. Okay, hold on. There's a link pinned to the top as well. And I just ask if you come into the green room, just please put your camera on so I can see that it's really you, and I'll let you up. Okay, so let's see. We're going to start. I'm going to share my screen. First of all, I'm going to talk about, I'm just going to quickly review what narcissistic personality disorder is. Okay. All right. And it's one of several types of personality disorders. It is a mental condition, and what it does, it has to do with the ego, that inflated sense of a person's own importance, and their very deep need for excessive attention, admiration. Um, they do tend to have troubled relationships, and they lack empathy for others. And that's not to say that they don't have empathy. Narcissistic narcissism, actually, they are able to have some compassion, whereas a psychopath has none whatsoever. So that was something I learned new recently, that they can actually feel some empathy, but not enough. They lack it more than they have it. Um, but also behind the mask of their ego, their extreme confidence, um, they have a very fragile self-esteem that's very vulnerable even to the slightest criticism. Hey, Vera. Okay. So not only these types of personality disorders, narcissism, it causes problems in relationships, but also work, school, um, in lots of areas of a person's life. Um, and generally, they're just unhappy and disappointed when don't when they're not given, favors or the admiration that they believe they deserve. Um, or they might find their relationships unfulfilling, as if their partner, um, it's not 50-50, it's 100-0. You're here in my life to make me happy, period. Okay. So some of the symptoms of narcissism is have what we talked about earlier, having an exaggerated sense of self-importance, feeling entitled, requiring constant excessive admiration, expect to be recognized as superior even without achievements that warrant it. They exaggerate the achievements and talents they do have, they exaggerate it. They're preoccupied with fantasies about success, power, brilliance, beauty, or finding that perfect mate. And they do believe they are superior and can only associate with equally special people. And they do monopolize conversations and belittle or look down on people as they perceive as inferior. Um, They take advantage of others to get what they want. They have the inability or unwillingness to recognize the needs and feelings of others. And they're often envious of others and believe others envy them. They behave in an arrogant manner or haughty manner, coming across as conceited, boastful, and pretentious. And they insist on having the best of everything, like the best car, the best house. And at the same time, people with narcissistic personality disorder have trouble handling anything they perceive as criticism. So when that happens, they become impatient or angry. When they don't receive special treatment, they have significant interpersonal problems and easily feel slighted. They can react with rage or contempt and try to belittle the other person. Um, they have difficulty regulating their emotions and behavior, experience major problems dealing with stress and adapting to change. They often feel depressed and moody because they fall short of perfection. And they have secret feelings of insecurity, shame, vulnerability, and humiliation. Any questions? They really don't like criticism? No, they don't. Because they could, I don't know if you're being sarcastic. They they will always look at the other person as inferior, and they are superior. Hey, sunflower. Okay. So we asked what causes this, right? Are we born with it? Do we develop it? So it's really not known what exactly causes narcissistic personality disorder. Um, it could be linked to three things: genetics, so inherited characteristics, um, environment. So, for example, mismatches in parent child relationships with either excessive adoration or excessive criticism that is poorly attuned to the child's experience. So, basically, their upbringing. Um, a child may grow up very spoiled despite being disobedient, and still get what they want, or it could go the other way, that they could be a very well-behaved child, but are treated as if they're disobedient and um, are not nurtured in the quote unquote normal sense that a child should be nurtured. And there are, and also neurobiology. So that's the connection between the brain and behavior and thinking. So we talked about the frontal cortex area of the brain, which they've done studies, the amygdala, that part of the brain that regulates behavior and thinking, the moral compass, so to say, is in the frontal cortex. It affects more males than females. It often begins in the teens or early adulthood. And one thing psychiatrists will not do is diagnose um, children who exhibit any signs or symptoms of being a psychopath or a narcissist. And they usually wait. Here it says 10 years old, but I've also read a lot of psychiatrists won't diagnose until the child is older than 5 years old. But usually it's I'm sorry, no, they usually won't see a child until they're 5, older than 5, but it's not until they reach adulthood where they'll actually give a definitive diagnosis. But I'm sure there are cases in juveniles where um, they are being diagnosed because of the severity, if they're involved in crimes, for example. Even overprotective children um, could be a risk factor. And as I mentioned before, being neglected. Um, okay, so I'm going to go over psychopaths, which psychopathy. So, psychopathy is actually a condition where there is the complete absence of empathy. Okay. Um, there's callousness, detachment, and lack of empathy enables a psychopath to be highly manipulative. Nevertheless, psychopathy is among the most difficult disorders to spot. Psychopaths can appear normal and charming, but underneath they lack any semblance of conscience. Their antisocial nature inclines them often but no means always to criminality. Um, Brain anatomy, genetics, and a person's environment may all contribute to the development of psychopathic traits. Some signs of a psychopath: glibness and superficial charm. Now, glibness is, how do I explain glibness? Glibness is like being superficial. So, for example, think about a car salesman. Okay, um, they try to sell you a car, but they're very messy. As far as they're not being truthful, they're kind of skimming over the top when it comes to the price, what you'll get. They talk the talk, and yet they could sell you a lemon for a car. So that's glibness. Um, but also you could think of hypocrisy. They say one thing, but it ends up being something completely different. There's a grandiose sense of self-worth, need for stimulation, proneness to boredom, pathological lying, conning, manipulative, lack of remorse or guilt, reduced emotional responses, lack of empathy, parasitic lifestyle, poor behavioral controls, promiscuous sexual behavior, early behavioral problems, lack of realistic long-term goals, impulsivity, irresponsibility, failure to accept responsibility for one's own actions, many short-term marital relationships. Their youth could have been delinquency, but not all, um, which involves diverse types of crimes, but that's not always the case. Um, So they believe psychopathy begins as early as childhood before the age of 10 and may receive a formal diagnosis such as conduct disorder. However, showing psychopathic features in childhood does not mean that a person will necessarily become an adult psychopath. And the causes are very similar to narcissism. What causes it? Um, that we went over, their upbringing, genetics. Um, Scientists have observed signs of atypical functioning of particular brain areas, such as the amygdala, in people with psychopathic traits. And can they be cured? That's basically a no. They can be maintained. They're through therapy. Um, they say their behaviors can be altered, but that's all they can do right now. Um, and a lot of times people mix up psychopath and sociopath or use them both to describe the same thing. So the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath. A sociopath refers to a person with antisocial tendencies that are ascribed to social or environmental factors, whereas a psychopathic traits are thought to be more innate, something that you're born with. Both, and that being said, both genetic and non-genetic causes play a role in shaping any person. Both play a role in shaping any person with antisocial traits. And a person can meet the criteria for antisocial personality disorder, which focuses largely on the antisocial behaviors without showing the core traits that are associated with psychopathy. And psychopaths are thought to compromise just a little bit, a fraction of people with antisocial personality disorder. And the only thing they found different between female and male psychopaths is Female psychopaths tend to be less physically violent than males and may have more anxiety and worse self-image. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the videos. Hi everyone that just came in. Tonda. Evelyn. I think I know a little bit about what this feels like. Yeah. I think most of us in our lives have either lived with someone with these traits or know somebody. I think the more we know, we can look back, even if we didn't know at the time. And now that, narcissism is more in the forefront these days, because I'll tell you, even before coming to YouTube, I knew nothing about narcissism, nothing. And I learned it through friends who experienced it, who taught me about it. I learned through my own research. And it's scary. And it's frustrating because you're powerless over another person, whether they're narcissistic or not. We're powerless over each other. And all we can do is focus on our actions. And like I said, rather than engaging with someone so very toxic that hurts us and we become victims, I'd rather focus on the escape route. You know what I mean? Because no matter what you do, no matter what you say, it doesn't change these disorders. It just doesn't. And we're not qualified to. And we shouldn't have to. If you have a partner or a friend, it shouldn't be up to us, to think that, we can play psychiatrist, and think that we can manage their behaviors or alter their behaviors. That's insane. Yeah, Nicole, you're right. It won't matter. No, it doesn't. Okay, so let me share screen. Present. Share. Okay. Okay, so this one is, can a child be a psychopath? Now, again, this is a webcast from Dr. Frank Ochberg. I believe he's out of Maryland. I think, but I'm going to show his video. I've watched his videos before, and he's very interesting, very easy to understand. And he seems very compassionate, like, this is what his specialty is, dealing with people with post-traumatic stress disorder, with his specialty, trauma. And again, trauma doesn't have to be physical. It can be emotional and mental. And there are many people who've involved themselves with psychopaths, narcissists, who are victims. And which will bring up to the shame and guilt. Why do victims feel shame and guilt when they are the victims? And he'll talk about that as well. Okay, so let me get to the share screen. Okay. All right, you ready? So can a child be a psychopath? And I think I've wondered that also, and he's going to explain it better than I can. All right. So thanks for bearing with me. And I'm going to pause it once in a while too, just for commentary.
By definition, you can't be a psychopath until you're an adult. But there
Let me know if you can hear it okay.
Looking backward to see what psychopaths were like when they were children. And they often had some very disturbing behavior. And in fact, in order to make the diagnosis with confidence that you have an adult who has no conscience, who has no empathy for others, who doesn't really care about being good, you go back to their childhood and you see, yes, they enjoyed setting fires, they tortured animals, they were mean to other people, they never really had tenderness, interest in others, but they learned what it took to get favors. So aside.
And mind you, I think I'm a little bit ahead on the laptop. Not all psychopaths necessarily kill animals or set fires, okay?
Psychopath, by definition, nowadays, is someone who is an adult, who has no conscience, who may or may not be sadistic. And that's an interesting addition, because in popular fiction, we're fascinated with these characters like Hannibal Lecter, who not only have no conscience, but they also enjoy hurting other people. But I would say children can be on their way, but you shouldn't make the diagnosis until they've grown up. There have been some articles lately, a really fascinating one in the New York Times about kids and good parents who.
So if a parent recognizes that something's wrong with their child, that, maybe they are harming animals or setting fires, um, you still want to get them into therapy. You want them to see a mental health provider. The sooner, the better. Even though they're usually not diagnosed till they're much older, but they shouldn't be ignored. And I think with Jeffrey Dahmer, I'm pretty sure his father, when Jeffrey Dahmer had harmed or killed an animal and opened it up, like dissected it, his father felt that, well, that's what he wants to pursue. He's curious. He'll probably be a scientist or a doctor. Um, you still want to seek out help to make sure that that's quote unquote normal, for a child. Um,
Who are just torturing themselves, trying to do the right thing with a child who is manipulative, unfeeling, destructive. My belief is that the core concept in a psychopath is the absence of conscience. And you don't form a conscience until you're 5 or 6 years old. So you can't really tell until the child is that old. But between 5 or 6 and the time they qualify for adult classifications, yeah, you can see that somebody is behaving and developing along that way.
okay, so that's where I screwed up. So, and sorry. So it's at 5 years old, a child does not develop a conscience until 5 years old. I kept mixing it up with diagnosing and waiting till they're 5. I got that wrong, and I apologize. Um, it's they don't develop a conscience until they're 5 years old. So if you're going to tell a kid when they're under 5, look what you did, tell mom or tell dad that you feel bad for that, and they're under 5, you're not going to get a child with a conscience at that point, which was amazing to me to hear. This was absolutely amazing. And if I knew what I knew now when I was raising my own kid, I think it would have saved me a lot of grief. Probably all of us would have been saved a lot of grief. Like, why did you pull the dog's tail? That hurt him, you know, shame on you. Why don't you feel bad? They don't. They haven't developed a conscience yet. So that was pretty interesting.
Now, my friend and colleague, Robert Hare, I consider the world expert on psychopath. He really knows way more than I do and way more than most experts do. He has studied them. I tend to study the victim. I'm interested in a psychopath because sometimes victims have run into them and they can blame themselves for having an encounter with a person who behaves really like a beast. So, at any rate, in order to rate high on Robert Hare's scale of psychopathy, you have to be both a psychopath and a sadist. If you're a sadist, it means you enjoy inflicting pain on others. Sadists sometimes come to psychiatrists when they're not psychopaths, but for some reason they've learned to enjoy inflicting pain on others and they feel very guilty about it and they want help in moderating that compulsive behavior. But you see, if you start out without a conscience and then having no empathy for the other person, you find out that you have power over other people. You can scare them. You can get them to do what you want them to do for you. Then I think of this kind of person as having stumbled into sadism, and without a conscience, they can become a psychopathic sadist, and that's the serial killer. That's the person who rapes and kills for the thrill of it. That's a very dangerous predator. Well, what?
That's scary. That's scary. So a psychopath, sadist. So I always separated sadism from psychopath, but put them together. That's a monster. That's a monster, right? The person that kills or assaults somebody for the thrill of it. That, yeah, sunflower gives me the shivers too. Yeah.
Causes the creation of a psychopath in the first place is open to huge debate and speculation. And there are people who study the genetic components, people who study the developmental components in the earliest stages of infancy. So different studies end up with different factors. There's no single gene that makes somebody a psychopath. And what's startling is to find brothers in the same family where one is a psychopath and the other clearly isn't. Some of those are fairly well-known cases, like one of the Columbine killers who really seemed to be psychopathic had a brother who clearly was not. There are twin studies, and they're not exactly concordant, but there tends to be a strong genetic component. So I think we're born with different building blocks. And if those building blocks don't build a conscience, an internal superego, a part of the mind that we can't locate anatomically, but we know what it does. It causes us to feel the sensation of guilt when we know we've done something that violates the rules that we believe in. If we don't have that capacity for feeling that feeling of guilt, that's the major part of being a psychopath. We don't have any stake in correcting our behavior. And some people believe they can teach that, but the jury is out on whether you can ever train a full-blown psychopath to be less than a full-blown psychopath.
Yeah, so have any of you grown up in the era or time, which wasn't that long ago, when a person, whether it was a child or an adult, say committing a horrific crime, for example, or the bully in the neighborhood who always was relentless and picked on your kid all the time. And what did we do? We blamed the parents right away. They had a horrible upbringing. Well, maybe they did, but maybe they didn't either, because you can have an entire family of 3 or 4 children, and only one of them turns out to be what they used to call the bad seed of the family, right? So now I think as we evolve in mental health with psychology, psychiatry, it's being recognized that a lot of it um, can be genetic, that people are predisposed based on, like he explained, like Dr. Ochberg explained, the building blocks of somebody's brain, which we have no control of. You know, when a woman um, is pregnant, you know, Jeffrey Dahmer's mother questioned herself so much in what she ate when she was pregnant, the vitamins, you know, trauma, stress, that it must have affected his brain. And I think a lot of that is still unknown. Maybe it could have, but we don't know that. But we do know now that it can most definitely be a genetic factor. It's very complex. Yeah, JM, right? You automatically think, you know, what did this child experience? And there are situations where children do grow up not being nurtured, um, where they're neglected, um, and their brains are developing. Um, you know, after they're born, they're developing till what? You're 23 or 24, 25 years old. So I do believe that there are situations where, you know, a child's environment plays a big role as well. And on top of it, if they have the genetic predisposition to be a narcissist or a psychopath, um, that's a double whammy, you know. Uh, that poor kid, you know. And yet you can love and nurture a child, um, and still a child can grow up to be a psychopath. It is very complex. In boys, it's even later. Yeah, way later. What is it, 30? Failure to bond and attach. Now, I'm adopted, but I was also diagnosed at 6 months old as failure to thrive. What that meant back when I was born um, had more to do with, from my understanding, was I had an allergy to milk. And back then, they had trouble finding supplements. So I wasn't gaining weight, I wasn't growing. I don't know the foster home I was in. I found my foster mother. Um, she took care of over 100 babies, fostered over 100 babies. She remembered me when I knocked on her door, um, which was amazing. And from my understanding, she loved me so much she wanted to adopt me. So I think failure to thrive can kind of go on environmental, like the allergy I had. I think it's 6 pounds. I was not even, I was very thin. I had like the swollen belly, you know, like the stick legs. But once they found a supplement, a meat based formula for me that I was able to digest, um, I started gaining weight and I was a fat baby. I got fat. Think about infants in foreign orphanages where there are not enough caregivers to meet the child need. Right. You see a lot of failure to thrive, malnutrition, the no bonding, babies left in cribs, rocking. They physically do not develop normally. Oh, Debbie, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Okay, so the next one, Okay, what do you do if you're living with a narcissistic parent? And this is a very short one. This is 2 minutes and 43 seconds. And I will stop just because of commentary.
What do you do if you're living with a narcissistic parent, or both of them are? Now, narcissism means that this adult who's raising children cares way more about themselves than about the child. That this adult has an ego that won't quit, feels very wounded or injured if something detracts from their image. And it's very, very hard to deal with that from the child position of lack of power. A narcissistic parent can make you feel guilty because you aren't giving enough to them. Their needs are insatiable, and they don't have the ability to think about you and empathize fully with you. A narcissistic parent can make you feel that you're dull or bad, or that there's something wrong with you, because they don't have the capacity and the instinct to feel life through your eyes. They're not genuinely nurturing of you. And a narcissistic parent can make you very angry. And as you grow up, adolescence, you may express that anger. In some circumstances, it's dangerous to express anger to a parent. I mean, they own you financially. They can hurt you, and they can expel you. So the children of narcissistic parents do have a disadvantage. Now, if you're an adult and you recognize this and you read about it, so you know it's not your fault, and you know what you have dealt with.
So exactly. So I don't know if any of you want to share just in comments if you think or you know that you were raised by a narcissistic parent. I wasn't. Um, but the most important thing is to recognize, like he said, not to blame yourself. And I think with education and learning about this, even though the damage already happened, and I feel horrible for any child that has to grow up with a narcissistic parent. Never mind one. Can you imagine two? Um, what they had to endure and carry with them through their adulthood. And again, therapy um, is something that should be sought out, because that sense of feeling like you're to blame for everything that your parents blamed you for um, are definitely behaviors that can be adopted into adulthood that can turn into a dysfunctional adulthood. Your dad is knitting. My husband had two narcissist parents. He had to drop out of school at 16 to work and also had a paper route at 12. Hi, Cowder. Parents can present narcissistically and do same damage if they have untreated bipolar, alcoholism, and addiction. That is true. That is true. And the thing with that, for all I know about that, is I believe that like alcoholism, substance use disorders, bipolar, well, never mind bipolar, but alcoholism and addiction can mimic bipolar. Um, so usually, I'm pretty sure that an adult cannot be diagnosed until they're free of all substances, because addictions within themselves can mimic a lot of behaviors of other mental health disorders. So I'm sure it's confusing, especially if you grow up and you're dealing with an alcoholic parent. And sometimes too, even if an alcoholic parent becomes sober, they still have what they call dry drunk behaviors. So the drinking has stopped, but the behaviors had stayed the same. So just because someone stops from using substances or alcohol doesn't necessarily mean the behaviors stop. Hey, BBT, what's up? What's up? Sorry I missed your live this afternoon. I was extremely busy. Pink, this is Emily. I'm in Al Anon in ACOA. You mentioned the 12 steps. Anyways, it's devastating to be raised by parents who want to be great but really can't. What's ACOA, please? Something, something, something anonymous. My father in law remained an a hole. And they are role models for their children. Children grow up having learned adverse behaviors on account of that. Oh, okay. Adult children. I've never heard of that. Are you in the United States? Right. And remember the other day I was talking about one of the greatest things a child seeks in their parent is acceptance and to feel safe. Can you imagine not having that as a child? Um, Not feeling safe in your own home? Um, I can't even give an example because I was fortunate that I always felt safe in my home and accepted. My grandparents that raised me were alcoholics. Joshua, did you grow up feeling guilty or that you were doing something wrong? I'm just curious. Okay. So this one is going to be, what is the role of shame when one has been victimized? So we talk about shame. Um, so we're going to listen to what he has to say. I'll let him explain it. He's better than me. So this again is Dr. Frank Ochberg. And he's a psychiatrist and he specializes in PTSD, trauma based, which obviously that's what PTSD is.
Shame, embarrassment, humiliation, that word mortification. These are parts of being not just traumatized, but victimized, being the recipient of the cruelty of another person. And we shouldn't feel ashamed, embarrassed when someone has been negligent or abusive or actually evil. Why is it? But it happens. I think shame is the feeling that comes when we have been lowered in dominance, when we've been pushed away. And we can't help it. It's an automatic feeling. We might blush, we might tremble, we might also feel anxious. But that anxiety, I think, is the anxiety that comes with the realization that we're being pushed away. And if it's a little child, it's very, very frightening to be abandoned, to be left to our own devices. As we get older, though, there are so many rituals in which kids are ridiculed, are pushed out of the group, are deliberately humiliated. That's part of our experience. So that part of trauma gets provoked, gets evoked, gets displayed. And it is different from the part of trauma that's all about fear, that's all about arousal. So shame is part of recovery. Uh, Admitting that we felt embarrassed. Sometimes we're defending ourselves against shame, very angry or very reclusive. We do things so that we don't show others that we feel embarrassed and that we recognize that we're being pushed away or pushed down.
Okay, so what I get from that is it has to be so if a child grows up feeling ashamed, and then, even when they go to school, and I thought of like even in gym, when I was often picked captain of a team because I was very athletic, but I always picked the person who was the underdog, who wasn't coordinated physically, um, because I recognize that being picked last was shameful, had to feel shameful. Um, so to grow up like that and then it to be compounded as you grow older in school or as an adult, and then you get to a point where you expected, okay, I'm an adult now. I'm not around that situation. Um, Now it's time. It's okay to speak up, but that shame is always there, and to the point where you feel ashamed to even talk about it, that you don't deserve to talk about it, and you do, and I think that's why it's important that people do speak up about their experiences, um, and that you shouldn't, even though you do feel ashamed, it's like he said, it is part of the recovery, and that's pretty profound for me to hear him describe it like that. Just and I relate it to any kind of recovery, that be it of any kind of trauma, addiction, um, um, addiction where people's behaviors are altered, and they do sometimes horrible things or things to embarrass others, and they don't want to talk about it because they they put that shame on themselves as well, and maybe their family shamed them. I didn't raise you like that. How could you do that? um, in my opinion, all children need to be removed from any dysfunctional, emotionally unavailable caregiver. Right. How do you regulate that? How do you regulate that? It's scary. Anybody can give birth. Most anybody can give birth. And you're in the hospital for a day or two, discharge, and you're on your own. You don't go in to have a baby and you're not given a psychological evaluation in most cases, unless you come in with a history or you have an open DCF case or CPS case. But basically, no one's there to say, do you think you'll be a good parent? There's no handbook. Um, Thanks, Yvette. There are people that have kids just remain on welfare. It is so sad, really. Yeah, I was the family whistleblower and there was hell to pay. Well, I think that comes along with dealing with narcissists and or psychopaths, that how dare you expose our family or whoever you're exposing, because now you're bringing the shame onto them, that you were the inferior one to them all this time, and now you turn around and you're playing their role of being superior, you're blowing the whistle, right? And now you made them feel to be shamed, or how dare you put us in this situation, you know um but you I think if someone's a whistleblower, as long as you're safe, make sure that when you're going to blow that whistle, that you are in a safe place.
That's the sort of conversation that I have often with one of my patients. And they experience a feeling of relief. We've put it into words. Yes, that's true. And why is it so relieving? Because it's not the kind of thing that we talk about. You don't, it's very uncommon for the wife to come to her husband and to say, you know, I was really embarrassed. And you didn't realize how ashamed I felt. Because the fear is that the response will add to that shame. But talking about shame with someone who understands it can reduce the shame and actually eliminate it. To realize how universal it is, to realize when it comes. And then post-traumatic stress is all about reliving things or anticipating that we're going to have to relive something. So if you are a person who has been humiliated and placed in fear and dealt with human cruelty, and you sense it coming on again, it's good to know what it is. It's about shame, and it's about the fear of being pushed down or pushed away. And what is the antidote? The antidote is to be with people who don't push you away, who understand you. Those people may not be in your life right now, but your job is to look for them and to find them. And your job is to give it to yourself. There's a phrase, healing the hurt child. That means understanding that even though you're 45 years old, there's an 8-year-old child inside you. That child may have been abused by your grandfather or your mother's boyfriend. And that child is still in there, vulnerable and hurting. And you, an adult woman who is sadder and wiser and informed, can say to yourself, that's not me anymore. And I've grown up and I understand the way of the world. And I comfort you. I value you. You're me. You're the piece that's inside me that I can choose to love.
Okay, he said it right there. What's the antidote for this? He's very good. He's very good. Um, okay, again, it's right on top of the screen. Frank Ochberg. He's a psychiatrist. The antidote. So we talk about, you know, trying to change someone else's behavior. It's not going to happen. It's just not. Rather than engage, I say escape. Surround yourself with people um, who have been through this. It doesn't have to be an exact situation. I remember when I first stepped into the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous, Al Anon, I'm sorry, because I was am a parent of a child um, who struggles with substance use disorder. Wouldn't go for the longest time. I said nobody would believe my story. Nobody. Um, and by the grace of God, I said, if I don't get to one of those meetings or somewhere, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. I'm going to totally break down and end up in a hospital with a breakdown, etc. And when I walked in those doors, I didn't even have to say anything. I listened. And there was one woman who spoke, and I said, that's my story. That is my story. And the feeling of surrounding yourself with people who understand is incredible. It is comforting. The shame starts to lift. And that's what he said. It's the antidote. And you can literally get rid of that shame just by surrounding yourself with people who have been through the same experience. And I think, when I took my channel and made it available for people who wanted to talk, that was my goal, was to bring people together who have been through a similar experience. It didn't have to be the same person. It could have been with anybody. But I think once we start talking about it, learning, educating ourselves, and surrounding ourselves with people who have experienced it, there's a great amount of healing in that, um, as opposed to trying to change someone else's behavior. It's not going to happen. It just isn't. I don't believe it will. Maybe one of you here believes that, I can make this person to stop. If you've got the recipe, hand it out. Hand it out, but I've yet to find a recipe to change anyone. The people that I personally know in my own life, the people I've associated with online, um, and it's worse online because you're dealing with people who have no empathy or lack of empathy, but yet social media was developed um, with no empathy to be felt. You can't feel it. You can see the words and people say, "I understand, I love you," um, but it's different. It's not tangible as like a person in front of you who can hug you and say, "Hey, I really understand." Um, by comments. But once you start reaching out to people, talking to them one on one, whether it's a phone call or on a live stream, you can share your experience and people can start to identify. And then they can start reaching out. Hey, here's my number, here's my email. And a lot of great friendships have developed through trauma. You can't fix a person you didn't break. Even if you broke them, people only change with their only willingness and commitment. I can't will someone into sobriety or sanity. No, you can't. Absolutely not. Trust me. Been there. Been there. Okay. There's one more. And then I'll open up the panel. Okay, so he talks about what are emotional triggers and how we can manage them. And this one's about 6 minutes.
Well, triggers has become a term in our field, the field of post-traumatic therapy. A lot of people who have been through horrible events themselves, they resonate, they are sensitive, they're aroused when they hear of other events. I've had several patients who, after the Boston Marathon bombing, felt they took a big step backward. And it wasn't that they themselves were in any event just like that. It kindled, it awoke, it reawakened in them their own bad scenes. And one part of it is almost a good thing. It's the compassion, the identification with others who are wounded. And I'll sometimes point that out. You're a sensitive person. You're there caring about somebody else. One of the things that a therapist should remind a person who has succeeded.
I'm going to stop it right there and ask you guys how many of you have ever been told if you've been traumatized or hurt in any way, how many of you have been told you're just too sensitive? It's almost like someone trying to take away your it is it's not s- it is someone trying to take away a piece of your identity, as if being too sensitive is not a good thing. It's a default, a defect. And I disagree. I think we need more sensitive people in this world. I think there's not enough of sensitive people because with sensitivity brings compassion, right? I've been told my whole life, you're too sensitive or you're overly sensitive. I can't change who I am, right? And I've often been made to feel that it's a defect that, you know, if someone doesn't like your reaction or doesn't want to deal with it for whatever reason, it's just you're too sensitive. It's almost like get over it. Get over it. There's nothing wrong with being sensitive or overly sensitive. It's part of who you are. Um, and I like I said, I think more people need to be more sensitive. We live in a very cruel world, and I think this world should be dominated by more sensitive people. What do you think? My sunflower says my personality type lends itself to sensitivity, but no one has used that against me to manipulate.
Needed in overcoming their own trauma is that when they feel traumatized again, when they feel triggered, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're back at the beginning. They've made a lot of progress already. They have their own tools to calm themselves and to feel good about their own progress. But the thing about post-traumatic stress is that you don't feel that the past is the past when the past comes back to you. It feels now. So do your best to remind yourself that you're in the here and now, that you're not there. And if you have strong feelings, it could mean that you're a compassionate person rather than
Right.
someone whose wound hasn't healed.
Right. So, like he said, rather than feeling like you're actually reliving the past, what it means is you are a compassionate person, um, sensitive, but it doesn't always have to identify with you're reliving the past. You're compassionate. Um, and I think the word, like I said before, sensitivity, it gets a bum rap a lot. It's almost like, you're not supposed to be so sensitive. It's okay to be sensitive. That shows compassion.
And if you're a person who is getting triggered, who is getting reminded or thrown back, how do you cope with that? And there are so many different ways. One way is to limit your dose, is to know that certain events, particularly on television or now with a lot of social media and visual stimulation, it might send you off. That's your body reacting. When we've been severely traumatized, parts of our brain don't distinguish one traumatic event from another. So anything that's frightening, that's arousing, could cause us to go back into our own past. And be careful about limiting your exposure to that.
Hmm.
Another is anything that.
Okay, limiting our exposure. Okay, so we hear the term hate watching. And I know if I, on social media, if I watch anybody who displays outrageous behaviors, harmful behaviors, hurtful, it triggers, and we often hear that. I'm so triggered by this person. You need to limit your dose. Limit it. Don't watch. You can't change it, right? Again, you didn't create it, you didn't cause it, and you can't change it. So all that's doing is throwing us back into where we feel like any trigger, it can trigger anything. I was triggered a couple of weeks ago very badly. Um, and I remind myself, limit the dosages. Um, and it's a great thing to do. You don't have to watch. In your real life, if something is triggering, you don't have to be there. You don't have to go to every fight you're invited to. You have the control Either you're willing or you're not willing. So it's taking back your power, um, and saying, you know what, I am no longer going to let someone feel like they can control me.
Bolsters your self-esteem. At times like this, many people feel, particularly if their trauma was interpersonal, they feel not just anxious, but humiliated and excluded, pushed away from the human group. So this is a good time to surround yourself with the kind of people who are a comfort to you. And we've talked about this before. Many of us come from toxic families. The family of origin is not a safe place. And it could be that, particularly after a notorious newsworthy event, there are phone calls, there are reconnections, and they're not sources of comfort. So go in the direction of comfort. Many people who are part of the Gift from Within community feel understood.
The gift from within community that he's talking about, I believe, is something he created. I It may be a support. I'm pretty sure it might be a support group, um, that he created, but it's just surrounding yourself with people who have your same experiences. Um, so that's when he talks about the gift of
And
community.
comforted among other members of this group. It's not just a group of people who have been traumatized. It's a group of people who care about others and who care about learning. So identify with that community. I guess to sum it up, do what you can to recognize that you're a human being, that you have a society, that there are others out there who understand you and who identify with you, and draw close to them at those times. What can you do when you know you've been triggered? One of the things is tell yourself, I'm here, I'm not there. It's now, it's not then. And even though this sounds overly simple, reminding yourself that you are here, now, safe, that's very important. Say that to yourself. Another is think thoughts that are self-enhancing. Remind yourself of what you like about yourself. Remind yourself that you do have friends and others who care. Another, if you are with other people and you're feeling embarrassed that something is showing, it's good in advance to have some excuses so you know how to get away. I remember a school teacher who knew that things might trigger her. She had been through a lot of trauma. And she decided that in class, if something happened, she would pretend to have a nosebleed. She didn't want to try to explain to her whole class that something set her off. And I don't know that she ever needed to pretend that she had the nosebleed, but she knew it. She had a plan. She had an escape plan. So that could be good too. As far as other ways, everybody has a chance to be original, to share information about what works for you. But it's not uncommon to know that you're triggered, you're easily triggered, and you want a way to soothe yourself and to avoid embarrassment.
Okay.
Alan.
So what do you guys think? Let me get his link and drop it. Hold on. Oh, so this is the name of his YouTube page, Gift from Within, PTSD Resources. Share it. Okay, Dr. Frank Ochberg. Okay. So what you guys think? Isn't he I enjoy him. He he seems very compassionate too. And we think of psychiatrists as just being kind of like monotone and, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's just from I had one psychiatrist in my life who put his I don't know, maybe because I was his last appointment, he was tired. But I remember talking to him about an experience, and he just leaned back in his chair, threw his feet up on his desk, arms behind his head, and he says, "Even the road to hell is paved with good intentions." And I'm like, really? So, but this is like a psychiatrist, like everybody would probably want if they needed one. Thanks, Hell to the No. So there's a link pinned to the top if anybody would like to come up. All I ask is that you cam up in the green room, so I know. So it's you. Um, okay, so this is about PTSD in this instant, not psychopath. Correct. So it's basically we first I first spoke about narcissistic personality disorder, psychopath, sociopaths, um, and a lot of victims. A lot of people are victimized by narcissists and psychopaths and sociopaths. So this is just one aspect of a mental health disorder that a lot of people in our community can relate to. Um, hey, Dee Dee, how are you? No, it's not just you. Psychiatrists act very strangely. Yeah. Yes, thank you. I think they do. You want to take a link, Dee Dee? So, Dee Dee, um, Life Happening, has a lot of videos on her channel. She, years ago, spoke a lot about narcissists. She's very good, very well educated. I had one that kept pointing at himself and back at me and held up two fingers and three and made me guess at my own diagnosis. Jeez. Joshua, I'm targeted by my own family, but I've got more around in me to shut them up before I say my final goodbye to all of them. Yeah, it's hard, Joshua, especially when it's family, right? It's it's really hard, especially when you come to the realization that the best thing is that dosing, like, or just escaping from them and surrounding you. You would think family are people that you can surround yourself with for love and support. It's not always the case. I'm just reading, catching up on comments. What's the guy's name? Um, I pinned the link. Dr. Frank Ochberg. He mentioned the Boston Marathon. I wonder if he's in this area. Dee Dee, can you just cam up in the green room for a second? I need more than a hand. You're in the green room. Okay, all right. You can turn it off. I'll let you up. Okay.
Thanks. It's Betty by time, so I'm not going to be on the camera right now.
That's okay. That's okay. I actually caught up on one of your live streams this morning.
Oh, wow.
Uh, yeah.
Cool.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So everyone, this is Dee Dee's Life Happenings. If someone can drop her link or I can. Um, she knows a lot about narcissism and what you went to school, to college.
Yep.
and studied. Um,
Studied a lot about psychology, not narcissism per se. There was very little of that, but from past experiences and just research on my own. And also from doing a what do you call that when they make you do a paper on somebody? It was like a case study.
a thesis.
Yeah, this was a case study though. It wasn't actually a thesis. I had to literally write up a case of a fictitious client, and I based it on an actual narcissist in my life. I think I got like an A+ on it too. It was really good. It was
So,
interesting.
so do you think um, from the time that you studied in college about psychology till now that there's more awareness out there
Oh,
about
definitely.
yeah
Definitely, and especially about narcissism. I mean, when I first came on YouTube back in 2008, it was myself and I think one or two other people talking about narcissism. And now look at it. Everybody and their brothers on here, every therapist that specializes in it. It's incredible, the boom of how many people.
do you think
Yes,
social
Ivy Lynn, I'm from Buffalo, New York originally. I sure am.
do you think social media played a large part in that with bringing it to the surface or
Definitely. Definitely. There's no
yeah
doubt about it. Mhm. I mean,
ivy
it all started with Sam Vaknin.
oh did it see I didn't
Oh, yeah.
realize
Yep, he was the first one, and that's how I found out that my former mentor was a narcissist, by watching his stuff and reading pages and pages of his Narcissism Revisited manuals that he actually posted online at that time. So, yeah, that's how I found out she was one and that I had been narcissistically abused
yeah
for 10
yeah
weeks.
so Dee, what's your suggestion for anybody who's dealing with a narcissist, rather whether it's in a relationship, like a spouse, uh, a boss, people online. Um, do you
Well,
agree that it's better to basically escape than engage?
yes. Oh, definitely if you can, but so many times it ends up where somebody has married someone and they find out that they have NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, and they either can't get out or they don't want to get out. There's lots of reasons people stay. And in that case, you want to make sure you're practicing good self-care because you don't want to lose your own identity in trying to please this person that you're never going to please, because they won't be pleased. There's absolutely no way. So you have to make sure that you maintain who you are separate from who they are. And when they
Yeah,
start putting you down or making fun of you, like I was married to one, so um I got to the point where he would say, "Oh, you're stupid and nobody would want you." And I would say, "You know what? That's not true. Everything you say, the opposite is true. So I'm not receiving that. I'm not taking that into myself." And he
right.
used
But
to get really mad about it.
you had the mindset and education or the knowledge of bypassing
Mhm.
that gaslighting type of behavior,
Mhm.
the manipulation. A lot
Yeah,
of people
exactly.
don't. And
Right.
like you said, if there's no self-care or awareness or it could be even therapy, um, a lot of these people, I'm sure, are trapped where, when you lose your identity, I can't
Mhm.
imagine. You're at their they control you 100%, like a
Yeah,
cult.
and
Yeah.
that's what happened with the mentor in my life. It ended up where I did lose my identity to the point that after she got done chewing me up and spitting me out for 10 weeks, I went home and because I was just visiting her basically for a type of ministry situation. When I went home, I was a mess. I had to drive home from Missouri, took about 6 hours, and I cried the whole entire way. And I got out of the car. My daughter Randy came out and said, "Mom, how was it?" And I just fell into her arms and sobbed. It was awful. Oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. I mean, it was horrible. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what kind of music I liked. I didn't know what kind of food I liked to eat, which Bible verses I liked. She controlled everything. She made me literally into whatever it was she thought I should be. And I was very submissive back then, so I kind of went along with it. Well, she was my mentor, so I saw her as a superior and I submitted to her and I just totally lost myself. It
And
was awful.
it goes back to even like cults, that mob mentality. And I've always said it, where a
Mhm.
person, once you become part of a group, and your leader, so to say, is narcissistic, um, has that narcissistic personality disorder, you eventually lose your identity. You are
Yep,
no longer looked at as an individual uh,
exactly.
in that group. And like, look at the book. If you read the book Lord of the Flies, it's a perfect example that,
Mhm.
people divided into two groups, and their behaviors, turned into negative violence. And even if one person felt they wanted to get out, they couldn't. They weren't seen as an individual anymore. You're part of the mob, you're part of the group. And
Well, and
eventually they conform to that.
also when you're involved in a group like that, you become very desensitized to the fact that there is anything out there. So you kind of feel it's kind of like an animal when you pen them in, eventually you can remove the gates and they'll stay in that area. Same
Right.
type of thing with cults or narcissists. It's kind of like a learned helplessness. You just and or even like a kidnapping, an abduction. It's like that Stockholm syndrome type thing. There's enough good that they do that you're convinced that, oh, well, they can't be that bad. And eventually, as my foster mom used to say, you get used to hanging when you've hung long enough. You really
Can
do.
can you explain to people who may not know what Stockholm syndrome is,
Yeah.
please?
Stockholm syndrome, well, they often use it as a term when somebody's abducted, especially a child. The abductor, the kidnapper, will do enough good things for the child, like maybe buy them dolls if they're a little girl, or buy them some kind of video game if they're a boy, while systematically abusing them in some way, depending on whatever type of abuse it is. And it confuses the child because they know that people that care about them and love them do good things for them, but yet this person is also abusing them at the same time, and taking turns kind of being good, being bad, and creates this kind of foggy image in the kid's head that, well, they can't be totally bad. They're buying me dolls, they're doing this, they're spending time with me. Sometimes they're sitting and watching TV with me, but yet they're molesting them while they're watching TV with them. But they kind of just have this attitude that, well, I can trust them because they haven't hurt me. Yeah, they hurt me a little bit, but they don't always hurt me. Sometimes they buy me nice things and they're kind to me. And it's just kind of an elusive way of looking at your abuser, really, as
Is
being kind of good.
is that the same thing as trauma bonding or
Yes.
similar?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Trauma bonding is involved in Stockholm syndrome, very much so.
I used to think up until recently, and I'd love to do a live stream or have someone do a live stream and explain it, because I thought trauma bonding was two people who came together because they experienced the same trauma.
Oh,
I
I
was
see what
so
you're saying.
off. I was so off. I'm like, I saw the bonding in trauma.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like, oh, it's when people, like when you see a girlfriend and boyfriend and they both come from dysfunctional families or backgrounds or whatever,
Hmm.
and they're both toxic for each other. I thought that was trauma bonding, but
Mm-mm.
I don't
No,
know what
trauma
it is now.
bonding, it can be with a parent and a child a lot of times, the trauma bond, where
Yeah,
that child is bonded to an unhealthy parent, usually borderline or narcissistic, parents that try to look at that child as kind of like a surrogate parent a lot of times because
yeah,
their husband isn't there for them meeting their need. I lived that nightmare where my daughter was trauma bonded with my ex-husband and put in a position of being the wife and me being the child. And that was very confusing and very frustrating to me because I was a grown adult. And here I was being told by this man that's supposed to love me, you listen to your daughter. She knows how to do things you don't. You submit to her. And people were like, why would you do that? I said, you don't understand. When you're in a marriage with somebody that has controlled every aspect of your life, you become very crippled in that situation. And you just do what you can to keep the peace. And that's the point I was at. But as a result of it, it gave my daughter the upper hand and she controlled me. So it was my ex-husband controlling me and my daughter controlling me. People ask, why would you go to his wedding if you had all these issues with him? Well, okay, I'm friends with the person he married, and my ex-husband had a stroke, so he's not even that same person anymore. Plus, it's a whole different era. She's not going to be raising his kids. They're like older people now. She won't ever have to go through the stuff he put me through. Thankful for her. But yeah, he put me through a lot of crazy stuff, but he had gone through a lot of crazy stuff because of his own father being an abuser. It's just
So,
crazy. It's insane.
so I do know, like with a narcissistic personality disorder, whatever that disorder falls under that as well, um, that when a person leaves, escapes, and knows not to have any contact, right?
Mhm.
The narcissist gets worse. Like
Yep. They
they've come to
hoover
the
and hover.
realization that they really don't have control or power over you anymore. So now we see them act out like assassinating someone's character.
Right.
Like they're still, so how do you deal with that? I mean, and a lot of people will say, I have the right to defend myself. I'm going to say something because he's telling all these people things that aren't true about me. And even though when we defend ourselves, it doesn't change anything. It's a vicious cycle. So do you just let that person do, assassinate your character? Like, especially married couples, a lot of times you share the same friends, right?
Yeah,
And now
that's
you
true.
get your ex, who now he's telling, your mutual friends, this is what she was really like, and
Right.
they're probably maybe believing it. What do you suggest? I mean, how do you deal
That's
with that?
hard. I don't know that there's any like one suggestion I can give because every situation's so unique. I know that even like in court, narcissists almost always win. It's almost impossible to win against a narcissist in court. With a lot of marriages end up in divorce court and
Yeah,
narcissist
they're
wins
very cunning.
everything.
They're very charming.
Oh, yes, and cunning. And they
Yeah,
know the system really well. They're very manipulative and very good at what they do. And what a lot of people don't realize is you weren't their first rodeo. They have this honed to a skill over years. So honestly, there isn't an answer I could give like a one size fits all type of thing. When you're involved with a narcissist and they decide to what they call smear you,
yeah.
unfortunately, yes, the best thing you can do is ignore it, but it's also the hardest thing to do because by nature we want to defend ourselves. And you could do that. And that's what I tell, like when clients have come to me and they're like, I'm so angry at him and he's telling all these lies. And I just want to shout out, that's not true. That's not true. I tell them, well, you could do that, but what do you think the result will be? Probably nothing. Probably going to escalate them more because you gave them the attention. Not necessarily, though. They might just be jerks and keep on doing it and not do it more, but just continue doing it. It's not something that's so cut and dry where if you do this, they won't do that because they're so geared towards destroying you. I mean, they want that narcissistic accolade, and as soon as you're gone, like you said, they've lost the control. So the only thing they can do that's going to get them to stop focusing on you is find a new victim. Some of them do, some of them don't. Just depends on the narcissist and the level of narcissism they have. In my case, the person that was the mentor that was narcissistic found a new victim. She
Right.
victimized my ex-friend's daughter after me, put her through almost exactly the same stuff she put me through, word for word, because I got to compare notes with her. Which, by the way, if you are in a narcissistic relationship, if you are fortunate enough to find somebody after you that's going through it and you can sit and talk to them, it's very empowering to know that it wasn't all in your head. This person's going through the same thing. It's not
Right.
always the way it works, but if you can,
And that's what that doctor discussed, was aligning yourself with people who have similar experiences, that they might not be the exact,
yep.
um, but it's absolutely necessary that you surround yourself with compassionate people, um,
Mhm.
care. And you don't even have
Yeah.
to know them personally. I mean, it could be going to a support group therapy. Because, like I said, when I first went into Al-Anon, I was hesitant for the longest time because I'm like, no one has my story, not even close to it. They're gonna think I'm
Mhm.
crazy. They're gonna call me an enabler. They're gonna laugh at me or criticize me. And all those months and months, that's what kept me from going. And then I finally went, and I was so wrong.
Yeah.
There was so much compassion and such a weight lifted off of me that, people understand. And that was empowering in itself for me. Um,
Yeah, I could imagine.
so for anyone, whatever you're going through, surround yourself with people who have similar experiences. You know, um,
What was interesting to me, with the mentor that was narcissistic, when she hooked up with my ex-friend, she knew enough how not to act around her because she knew I had talked to her, so she wanted to kind of, suck her in as her next narcissistic supply. So of course she wasn't going to do some of the same things she did with me. That's why she targeted her daughter instead. So when I talked to my friend and I'd say, "Well, did she do this? Did she do that?" She'd say, "No, not at all." But yet when she targeted her daughter, it was identical to how she treated me. So they will switch out their techniques and tactics with the next person that comes along, especially if they know you have a connection to them, because they don't want you to catch on to them. A narcissist is all about creating a false image of themselves with people. So if they think you're onto them, they will ditch you quickly and replace you. But if they know you're talking or have been in the past talking to their replacement, they'll be careful not to do those same things to throw the replacement off.
right.
They're smart. They're not dumb people, and like I said, they've honed it
Hello.
to a skill over the years. Hi, Vera. So yeah, it's crazy. It's a very that's why they call it crazy making, because they make you feel crazy.
So on your channel, do you have your older videos up that talk about narcissism?
Yeah, I started putting a lot of them back up. I'm just still kind of going through the live streams because there are a lot of iffy situations that I didn't really necessarily want to post on there again and get people riled up, if you know what I mean. But
Mhm.
yeah, most of the narcissism videos are back on. The borderline videos, I think, are back up. Pretty
Yeah,
sure.
you got a lot of views. I remember, like,
Yeah, 100,000 views on the silent treatment one. That
yeah.
was the most popular, still is, I think.
Have you
That was,
thought I know
mhm.
we talked once, and you weren't sure if you're gonna go back to talking about, um, you know, narcissism, but have you thought about it, or are
Well,
you
there's
just
not a whole lot new about it to talk about. That's the problem. I don't know what more I can say. I pretty much put all of my experiences out there already. I haven't had any new ones, thankfully. I've
have you
learned
had
to
are you still
avoid them.
getting views on those older videos?
I don't know if I've gotten a whole lot of new views on anything, but that's probably because I just put them back up there again. I'm not really sure. I mean, the same views are still on them, but I don't know about
And
new
I
ones.
wonder if older videos are more difficult to hit the algorithms, you know,
Possibly. Well, now that so many people are talking about it too, I've got a lot of, as they say, competition, so to speak. Not that I'm really competing, but
yeah.
there's so many other people, which I'm glad about that. I'm glad that I was sort of a catalyst, one of them, one of a few back in
Right,
2008.
right. So you did these videos when it really was it just starting to come out in the forefront
It
or
wasn't known. Nobody knew what it
oh,
was. Everybody thought narcissists were just show-offy kind of, conceited people. And
yeah.
thankfully, Sam Vaknin was the one that I based a lot of my videos from. I just basically would go on his channel, find out what he had to say, and kind of apply it to my own situation and make the videos. And he would tell people, you think narcissists are just people that are like conceited and self centered. That's not it at all. They're people that have a false self, not just people that are show offy and self centered. They're people that literally become other people to society. They look totally different out there in the open versus behind closed doors. That's the point. It's a mask. And that's where people get it wrong. Oh, well, she's stuck up, so she's a narcissist. No. The only time you're a narcissist, you have to have 5 out of 9 of the traits. And I don't know what they are offhand, but if you don't
Mhm.
have those 5 traits, you can't be diagnosed with the personality disorder. But narcissist by nature, that is somebody that has a totally different persona in the public versus in private. And that was the problem with being married to one. People would see Roland and say, oh, he's so giving, and he'd give you the shirt off his back, and he'd pull over the car and help you if you needed. Yes, he would. In fact, he used to give my vacuum cleaners away to everybody and then yell at me because I couldn't vacuum the floors at home. It's like a double bind. You're going to criticize me for something I can't do, but yet you took my tool to do it. That's the kind of crazy stuff they do behind closed doors. And
Did
it's
you see
it's
I pinned Evelyn's comment.
oh, okay, let me check.
Hi, Amy. I think I'm dealing with a narcissist now. It's so painful. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry for anybody that ever has to deal with people like that. I'm sorry, Evelyn, that you went through that.
But
I
see, I don't
understand.
think she says, I don't think I'll ever be the same person again. So to me, that's sad. And
Yeah, but you
it's
you can be a better person because of it and not let it, shake your trust in everybody, because that's what they do. But remember, not everybody is like that. They're very select few of those types of people.
so that it's trauma to me. It's
It
trauma.
is. It's
You're being
very
victimized.
traumatizing. It's extreme,
Um,
and it gives you PTSD.
exactly, exactly. And
Very
that's
much
the
so.
correlation. And that's when the doctor was speaking about, don't feel ashamed to talk about it, whether it's with a therapist or with other people who've had similar experiences, and don't let that
Exactly.
define you because that's part of the narcissistic personality disorder. And it can take away your identity or make you feel
Exactly.
like it took away your identity. And that's when self care comes in and surrounding yourself with people who have been through similar situations.
Mhm. Very true. And it will shake the way or change the way you see the world, Evelyn, and shake your core values, but it doesn't have to stay that way. If you can learn good self-care and study about narcissists and how to recognize the warning signs and the red flags. That's what I had to do. Now I see them coming a mile away. I have no problem with it. But that took years to cultivate the ability to do that. And it does take a lot of therapy. It takes a lot of self introspection, learning what in you attracted them. And I'm not saying I'm blaming the victim. So people will be like, don't victim shame. I'm not shaming you. I'm just saying there is a certain thing that can attract them. One of them is people that internalize things a lot and take things very personally, because you're a perfect target for a narcissist if you do that. Because they're going to push every button and yank every chain they can to get you eaten out of their hand and doing what they want you to do. And then when they're done with you, just like some kind of an old toy, they stick you up on a shelf and replace you with the next person. That's how they work. And it's painful because it's as if everything you just experienced with them didn't even exist. You're like, what about all our memories? What about our plans, our future? And they're just like, I found somebody new. Aren't you glad I found somebody new? Aren't you glad we didn't get deeper involved before it got too far? And you're sitting there going, I'm devastated. What do you mean? Aren't I glad? You were my world, you know? And Nancy's right. They see kindness as a weakness. When you're vulnerable, you're disgusting to them. I don't want to be seen by you. You're such a blubber baby. You're such a wimp. That's how they act. They do think they own you. They believe they own you. They believe you're joined at the hip, and that everything they feel and the way they react, that's how you are seeing things and about to react. They project. It's creepy too to have somebody project onto you. I'll tell you what happened to me. Back when I was with the mentor that I was with, we would minister to people on another forum, and she would tell me to kind of bring people close to her so she could kind of lead them. And then the people that came close to her were people that had like mental problems and whatever. And she'd be like, I can't handle these people. You need to go deal with them. So then I would go and kind of, I guess you could say, what's the word? Not crisis. I'm trying to think. Damage control. I would do her damage control for her because she'd be all ticked off at these people for having weaknesses. And why are they coming near me? Well, you invited them to come near you. You wanted to minister to them. So then what she would do is start accusing me of rejecting people when it was actually her rejecting them. And I would say to her, that's not me doing that. That's you. I'm the one drawing people close and praying with them and being friends with them. You're the one coming to me saying you can't handle them. And they can't handle blame either or responsibility. Everything is always somebody else's fault. Well, if you only did this, I wouldn't have to do that. That type of thing.
Somebody asked Sunflower Brown, can you discuss gaslighting?
Yeah. Gaslighting is when the narcissist creates a situation the way they want you to see it, but not really the way it happened. A perfect example of gaslighting is a movie. It is actually called Gaslight.
Yeah, I just put the it's an excellent movie.
Yes, you need to watch that. Yes. That is hands down the best movie I've ever seen that depicts narcissism. Really. It's really good.
That was made, what, in the late 1940s?
The first one. I think they redid it like years later. I don't think it was as good as the first one, but that was a long time ago because that was like old movie.
Yeah,
black and white.
It depicts gaslighting so well, and basically it's when somebody makes you question your own reality.
Bingo. Yes.
So now you're actually saying, well, it's like in the Gaslight movie, I won't give it all away, but, it's like somebody, hiding a gift that you bought them, right? A piece of jewelry. Yep. Oh, honey, wear that to the dance tonight. And you can't find it. And they accuse you of losing it or selling it or, and it's like, no, I know I left it there. And they keep badgering you and to the point where you start questioning, like, well, maybe I did lose it.
And then they tell you that you're ill, that you need to see a doctor, a mental doctor. Oh, honey, you put that over there. Why don't you remember that? I think we need to get you to some therapy. I think you need help. Yeah, and they convince you that you're crazy.
Yeah, I think you need to go to a psychiatric hospital. Becoming an embarrassment in public. I mean, people are seeing that there's something wrong with you, and all that time there's something you're upset because you've got your husband constantly telling you, you're doing this, you lost that, you stole this, you stole that, and eventually it just wears you down to the point where you start questioning your own reality.
Right,
And
and they also turn other people against you and get them to question your sanity. They will destroy your friendships. That's one thing that my ex did was he never liked any of my friends except the one friend that was very narcissistic herself, which was interesting because usually narcissists don't like other narcissists because there can't be two captains of a ship, basically. But he liked this lady a whole lot, and he put down all my friends to the point where I would just get so frustrated. I would start throwing stuff across the room. And he would say to my kids, "Look at her. Look at her, girls. Do you see me acting like that? Look at how crazy she's acting. That's why you go to therapy and I don't." And he would say that in front of my daughters after he provoked me to the point where I was just losing it and turn everything on me as if I was crazy. But he was provoking me by saying mean things about my friends, by saying I was worthless and useless and fat and everything else. Falsely accuse you publicly of being an alcoholic. Yeah, they do all kinds of false accusations.
awful.
I was accused of being into the same gender, and I'm not putting people down that are, but I clearly was not, and they were spreading rumors about that. So yeah, the narcissists in my life did that. They make up all kinds of stuff. They're vicious with the smear campaigns and stuff when you leave them or they get sick of you.
Yes,
That's their
Angela
routine.
Lansbury is in that film Gaslight, a very young Angela Lansbury. She
Oh
plays
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she plays the housekeeper,
That's
uh,
right, she did.
and
Yes.
she's in on it, eventually, because I don't know if he wanted a love affair with her or they were just trying
Mm.
uh, to find a particular piece of jewelry that was worth a lot of money. It's you gotta watch the movie, but yeah, Angela Lansbury is in it.
Hmm. I didn't remember that. I know the guy that's in it. I will tell you this. Um, I'm pretty sure he's pretty narcissistic in actuality as well. I read something about that. I mean, I think he's dead now. I'm not sure. That was long, long time
Oh,
ago.
yeah. Yeah. I think they're all dead. I think Angela was the last one, but she was young in that movie, very
Yeah.
young.
Who was it that played the main character, the lady? She was phenomenal.
Oh, what's her name? Let me look it up. I don't have it. Ingrid Bergman. Yeah.
Yes, Ingrid
Charles
Bergman.
Boyer and
Yeah.
Angela Lansbury.
I think the most powerful scene was the one you were describing about the jewelry, where she just is so shaken and she's looking down, going like, "How did that get in my pocket?" type of thing. And that's very typical gaslighting type stuff.
Yeah. So he accuses her of misplaced, of
Yeah,
thinks someone must have stole whatever, and eventually she does find it,
the
but she
pocket watch.
finds it in her pocket and
Mhm.
has no idea how it got there, and he's like, "Well, you put it there. Like, you did it," or, and that's when he starts saying, you know, you need to go to a hospital, you
Mhm.
know. It was I've watched that movie probably about 4 times now, over the years.
Yeah, Charles Boyer, that's who played the guy. Yeah, I thought I read something about that sunflower. I could be wrong. I do make mistakes occasionally. You can spot them the first time you meet them. Some people can, some people don't, and that's how they end up with them. I didn't notice it when I was married to one for 23 and a half years. And the person that told me I was married to one was the narcissist herself. So takes one to know one type of thing, you know? Crazy. Yeah, Charles Boyer and Ingrid Bergman were the actors in the original one.
I've never watched the remake, but I have a feeling remakes are never good as the
No, it
original. But
really wasn't. It was not as good as the other one. The
yeah, for that
original one was
time, I guess that was 1944.
wow.
Yeah, thriller, 1 hour, 54 minutes, and it goes by fast. I think you'll enjoy
Yes.
it for anyone who
Yeah.
watches it.
Yeah, you get really drawn into that movie. I know I did. I've watched it several times because I needed the information for some of my videos. But yeah, it's very the whole name for my original channel, which was Delusion Dispeller, came from the word disillusionment because that's how I felt after the mentor got done abusing me, was disillusioned. Like, did that just happen? Did I seriously just spend 10 weeks with this lady that ignored me for most of those weeks, and when she didn't ignore me was putting me down, mocking me, um insulting me? I mean, she was vicious, terribly vicious. And that was the disillusionment, was that this person I was going to go to Africa and be a minister with, I couldn't even stand being in the room with her for a few minutes because she
Yeah.
was so awful. That's why you got to be careful. These people online that you meet may not be who you think they are when you finally meet them in person.
If
Thanks,
you meet
Beer.
them in person. So far, I've met several YouTubers in person. So far,
Mhm.
they've all been positive experiences. I have this. I'm very good with my instincts because even um, growing up, I could smell a rat. If you know
Yeah,
what I mean, like I couldn't identify what it was exactly, but I could sense that you know. Um, it wasn't normal. I
right.
was dating one guy and I really enjoyed him. I really did. And then he started saying, this is before cell phones, I've been trying to call you. You said you're going to be home. You never picked up the phone. Where were you?" And I'm like, and I was literally home all day. And I'm
Wow.
like, "No, you didn't call because my phone never rang." No,
Right.
I called, and I remember, like, thinking to myself,
Mm.
"Maybe I did go out," you know?
Yeah,
But
you
then
start
he
questioning
started
yourself.
just showing up at my house unannounced when he knew, like, "Call me if you're gonna come around," you
Ooh,
know?
that's stalker
He
behavior.
didn't even live near me or work near me, and right
Wow.
then and there, right that's all it took was that one time when he showed up. Oh, I was just in the neighborhood. The fact that you didn't call me regardless, I don't care if you were 10 feet away. You call me and let me know. I
Right.
dum I dumped him. I dumped it. He started to
Smart.
get possessive, and I was just like and it was
Yeah.
unfortunate. I really enjoyed him. But there was that charm. I mean, I was with him probably 6 months before this started.
That's usually when it happens is between 6 and 9 months from my experience when they start taking the mask down.
Yeah, and I'm just like but, it would be like, you know I would say, I feel like smothered by you and or whatever, and the excuse is, I love you so much. I don't want to see you get
Mhm.
hurt. I want to protect you. And it almost like, wow, like it almost lifts you up like, wow, I must be really important to him or he really loves
Mhm.
me. But then you start seeing the signs of like showing up whenever, why
Yeah.
did you pick up the phone? You said you weren't going anywhere. Where did you go? And I'm like, "What do you mean, where did I go? I don't care if you go anywhere, but you need to tell me because I could
Yeah,
try
the
to bring him back
jealousy, the
in." Yeah,
suspicion.
yeah.
Yes.
Like, "No, see you later."
Evelyn, I read your comment and I understand how you feel with that because I started feeling like, well, can I even make good judgment on people's characters? It wasn't just this one person. I kept attracting toxic people before her. But she was like, she took the cake until somebody online I met years later who takes the cake more. I mean, this person was like really bad, and people before her were really bad, but not to that extent. It seemed like I just kept trusting people that were worse and worse. I was like, I don't even think I can make a good choice in a friend. So I just kind of didn't trust anybody after a while, including myself. But I got over it eventually. I healed from it and just learned to put that energy into learning about myself and learning about other people. That helped a lot. That's one of the reasons I went to college. Ooh, sounds like Joshua went through a hard time too.
Yeah,
Because
I don't know what he's going through, but sounds awful. Or
Yeah,
like whatever he's going through, he needs to get the hell away from it.
definitely. If you can possibly get away from them safely, do it. Just don't let them know you're leaving. That's not a good idea.
Um,
Yeah, that's true, Nancy Drew. They let you invest time and feelings when they think that they have you. The mask starts to slide. And then they get freaked out because their mask is sliding because they've got to try to put on this perfect face for the world. They don't want you to know who they really are. Oh, Love on the Rocks. I remember that song by Neil Diamond. I don't remember the lyrics. Love on the Rocks ain't no big surprise. Tell me something and I'll tell you some lies. I can't remember what the first part of that was. Yesterday's gone, now all we've got is a smile or something. Yeah, there's a lot of songs written about narcissists actually. How about the song Maneater? Oh, here she comes. Watch out, boy, she'll chew you up. She's a man-eater. I mean, that's clearly about a narcissist. And how many people have met women that chew people up and move on? My daughter is in a situation with her people group that she's with, college age students. One of them is borderline, another one is a narcissist. So I've been trying to help her navigate through all of that mess. And it's hard because she's like I was. She's drawn to the fascination of this person's really different. And yeah, they're mean, but there's just this side of them that's so intriguing. You know, like somebody once told me, the devil has a pretty side too. We wouldn't be drawn into certain activities if they weren't fun and enjoyable. Well, that's how narcissists are too. They come off as charming at first. They tell you everything that they know you want to hear.
yeah.
And they tell on themselves if you listen. And that's the one thing. If I could turn back time and would have known anything about this person that chewed me up and spit me out, it would be to have known that she was telling on herself the whole time. I mean, just blatantly telling exactly what she was going to do to me next. And I was just like, duh, so enamored by her that I just wasn't paying attention. She would say
Right.
things like, I know you better than you know yourself, you know. You know, I can get you to say whatever I want you to say. I
But
mean, she would say that stuff. Huh?
don't you think our experiences, even bad experiences, shape us to hindsight's 2020, right?
Well, yeah, of course.
So even
I
though we
mean,
feel touched by it, we'll never be the same. I believe we can evolve into a better person, more
I
into
agree with you, but I would never have, like now, I would never want to go through that again, ever.
right, right. And
I'm glad I made it through,
there
but
there is a period of the trauma, the PTSD, but it's not a life sentence. I don't believe it's a
no.
life sentence, not
It
at all.
doesn't have to be. No, I
No.
don't think it is. It wasn't for me. Of course, I am a very resilient person, and people have different levels of resilience. Not everybody can just bounce back. And it did take me a while, but It didn't take me like years and years to get over it. I just learned, and you kind of get to the point where you're like, okay, I won't do that again. I won't try that again, because this is what happened the last time. And you just learn, don't go down that path again. Try something different.
Right. And you can teach others, educate others, based on
Yeah,
your experience.
exactly.
And
That's what I
and
hope
th-
to do.
that's what's important, is that you surround yourself with people who've experienced the same thing, or not the exact same thing, but who've been around a narcissist or a psychopath. I can't even imagine being around a psychopath.
Ugh, yeah,
Um,
that would be awful.
because
Very.
they described it as, so narcissists, they said, well, he said, actually, or not him, um, that the literature I read, that narcissists can actually have a little bit of empathy, but a psychopath has none.
Exactly.
None.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
And
true.
then when you get into the sadistic part of it,
Yep.
they enjoy hurting others. So you put a psychopath and a sadist together,
Yep.
and like this doctor explained, you've got a serial killer.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Because they have
Creepy.
no conscience.
Right. And they
No
do it
conscience, no
for
remorse.
pleasure.
Yeah, exactly. That's sadistic.
Well, if they feel good, if they have the pleasure part of the brain, don't you think what regulates the guilt or feeling bad regulates is in the same area? It's like,
Mm,
you know what
I
I'm saying?
I'm not really sure. I don't know much about the brain. I do know that I read something the other day. It was about weight loss, actually, that when you do something bad, like you eat something you weren't going to eat or whatever, and you're mad at yourself or whatever, it stimulates that same part of the brain as pleasure. So it's almost like you get rewarded for doing something bad. That's why people have trouble losing weight. I think it's the same thing with
Yeah,
sadism, probably. It brings a reward. It's that dopamine response. You know about that. That
yeah.
hormone that kicks in, and oxytocin too. It's like a high. And that's scary. If you're, kidnapped by somebody that's sadistic, you're in trouble. If they, enjoy that kind of thing, that's very scary.
I mean, look at that guy they just caught out in Stockton, California, just walking around, killing people at random.
Yeah. Yep.
To me, that's sadistic.
It
That's
really is.
that's sadistic.
And I know that in therapy, they don't like diagnosing children like as narcissists or
Right.
whatever, psychopaths. I think that's a problem. I think they should diagnose them younger and treat them younger, because I think that's where the breakoff point is that they're not willing to jump in there with younger kids when they start seeing sadistic behaviors. Oh, well, they're just a child, they'll grow out of it. That's scary to me because they
I don't
don't
think
grow out of it.
I don't know if a child can actually be truly diagnosed, but they should definitely be in therapy. They should definitely be monitored.
Right.
Um,
I mean, don't diagnose the child to the child, obviously, but talk to the parent and say, hey, we're seeing some disturbing behaviors, like kids that pull the kitty cat's tail. Now, maybe it's a baby and they're just being silly, but if it's a little bit of an older child, then there's a problem there. Because what you're doing is you're harming a living creature that is it's causing the creature pain, and you're not having a reaction of, oh my gosh, what did I do? There's a problem. That's a disconnect to me. I don't know. Sometimes I think I should have gone further in my education, and maybe I could have explored some of this and opened some eyes.
Never too late.
Yeah.
But it's said that a child before the age of 5 has no conscience. So anything before 5, um, won't be diagnosed or treated because all children before the age of 5 have no conscience.
Yeah, see, I don't agree with that. I really don't. I mean, there are kids that are pretty young killing other kids. So tell me that that
Not
child
under
has no
5.
conscience.
No, under 5, I'm talking about.
Yeah. There's probably stuff that goes on that isn't reported too, of all different ages.
And parents need to, I don't think they are schooled in recognizing, um, these behaviors as that need attention.
Right.
But
Well, a lot
but
of times it's because
always
of the
talked
parents.
about, because back then, and I talked about this at the beginning of my life, you know, we all grew up in a time, a lot of us did, where if a child was bad, it was the parents' fault, and nobody.
Right.
But now we know that not always to be the case. A lot of
Very
times it
true.
can be, nature and nurture and lack of loving or whatever. Um,
Yep.
but you have a child who's in a home, and you have several other kids, and you have one child who, a lot of parents would just say, well, each child has their own personality, when they
Mm-hmm.
need to recognize, what's right behavior and wrong behaviors, and nip it in, quickly, like Jeffrey Dahmer, dissecting animals as a kid, and his
Exactly what
father,
I'm talking about. Yes,
yeah, attributing it to, he's curious and he'll probably go into the sciences.
I know.
That's not normal.
No, it's not. I read that too. I was horrified. Yeah, that's when they should have stepped in and, checked out to see what was going on with that kid. But they
Oh, I'm
didn't.
sure. And I'm sure his father to this day, because his father's still alive, regrets
Hmm.
that. But
Yeah.
the education wasn't out there, I don't think, like,
Mm-mm. No, of course not. Just like narcissism was not a big thing that was talked about back then. They didn't even know what it was. That word didn't even, come into play, I don't think, for a long time. I don't even know the year when that term was used in the DSM, because that's when it probably started becoming a thing, was when it was diagnosed as a disorder. I mean, narcissism was just, oh, well, he's narcissistic, meaning he's self-centered. That was the way it was used. But as far as the disorder itself, that was probably a lot later.
some
Oh,
development.
wow.
There are suspect the window closes on personality development by age 5. Others later in childhood. Still others say it continues to develop through the life course.
Hmm. Interesting. So the personality is formed by age 5. Is that right?
Some developmental theorists suspect that.
Well, I
The
would join in with them on that one.
very complex, very complex.
I would join in with them on that one only because I have a daughter that showed signs of narcissistic behavior as very, very young and still has signs of it as an adult. So I think if we could have gotten her some kind of help or something, she may not have turned out the way she did. But she did. So what are you going to do? She's in her 30s now. So her personality is pretty formed.
But I think too, they say under 5
Hmm.
that even if they exhibit a trait, some of those traits, it doesn't necessarily mean it will continue. So I
Yeah.
think they're guarded, before a child is 5, not to, diagnose, because that behavior often can change. Um, I think we all have a little narcissism in us, and with kids, especially, what is it, 2 years old, around that age?
All the way up to 7.
They're very narcissistic because the world was created for them. Like the
Right.
tree outside
I
isn't
think the
that tree.
line comes with
Yeah.
between the narcissistic and the sadistic. When you start seeing sadistic traits in a child is what I meant that should have been looked at. Maybe
Yeah.
not narcissistic per se, but harming animals and stuff, yeah, that should bring pause to people, I think. Yeah, that's true, Nancy, but I'll tell you, at least here, the schools are not very well skilled in dealing with kids like that. And I worked in a school like that for 2 years with very sadistic and narcissistic kids and borderline kids. And those schools did not know how to handle those kids. They were putting them in holds where they were like lowering them to the floor and holding their hands behind their back. And one of the teachers was sitting there screaming in their face, going, do it again, I dare you. You'll see what happens to you. We're trained not to treat kids like that. But there are so many teachers that are not skilled in dealing with children with those kind of needs. And that's the scary thing. When the adults can't deal with it, then you just got a kid that's out of control.
There is healthy narcissism and unhealthy narcissism.
Very true. Yep. Healthy narcissism is what the people that have been with narcissists learned to keep from being sucked in by them again. You got to start loving yourself and practicing that self-care. And some people would say, well, you're just selfish and self-centered. You have to be a little bit. You have to have a strong sense of self, or those narcissists will draw you in and make you who they want you to be. That's the healthy way.
That's probably what maybe it made me in tune to that guy I was dating, because
Yep.
I consider having a strong I consider having a strong self sense.
Definitely.
So maybe, yeah, it's a matter of, tuning in. Instead of tuning into the narcissist so much, you got to tune into yourself
Mm-hmm.
and your own health. Yeah, Sunflower, you might have studied stage theorist in your coursework, psychohuman development.
Oh, I know, Nancy, and they had psychologists there. Let me tell you, the people they had there, the social workers, um, they let my friend die, and she was an alcoholic and had a lot of problems. She was a teacher in that school, a paraeducator actually, and they all stood by and let her die. And so, yeah, as far as them seeking resources for the kids, they weren't very good with the kids or with adults, apparently, or my friend probably would still be here. We had a whole school full of social workers who could have intervened and didn't.
What happened to your
So,
she was the alcoholic, right?
yeah, she was alcoholic. She hooked up with very toxic, dangerous guys, and they would help feed her addiction and they would beat her up physically. And it eventually she was just so sick from all the alcohol that she drank day and night that her body just shut down. I think she had a heart attack actually. She's only 50 years old. And my friend that also worked at the same place, we're very close. She said they let Sarah die. They let her die. And she's right. They did, because they could have intervened. They could have reported it. They brushed it under the rug. It's very sad.
I'm sure it's a fine line too. I mean, I don't know, as mandated reporters, you want to be absolutely sure that if you're going to report anybody,
It wouldn't have been too hard to prove anything. All they had to do was pick up her cup and smell it. It was filled with alcohol while she was teaching the children, and they
I
knew
worked,
that.
yeah, I worked with a nurse years ago. We had a shuttle to the hospital because of
Mhm.
parking, and she would get on that shuttle bus, and it was like a mini bus, and you could smell the alcohol coming out of her pores.
Mhm.
Now, she may not have picked up a drink that morning, but she certainly drank the night before because it was oozing out of her pores, and everybody knew it.
Yep.
Everybody knew it. This is a nurse that's pushing meds, taking care of patients, and
Mhm.
I found I had moved at that time, so I was commuting for like 6 more months, and then I resigned because it was just too much of a commute. And
Mhm.
I found out that she died. At home, she fell down the stairs and broke her neck.
Oh gosh.
But
Wow.
it's like, yeah, everybody knew that at
Mhm.
least, but I don't know. It's like nobody wanted to get involved, I guess, even though people complained about it.
Yep.
But I don't think anybody went to the higher up and said, "Hey, I think we've got somebody who's got a serious problem."
No, but I did. In this case, I went to the higher up, and that higher up, as my friend that works there still said, she should have been closed down a long time ago. Because she hires people that are very questionable in behavior and backgrounds, etc. And she reinstituted the guy that was screaming in the kids' faces and abusing them. They put him I think they put him in jail for a little while, I'm not sure, but they wouldn't let him teach. And then next thing we know, he was right back where he was doing the same thing again. It's
Mm.
terrible. The injustices and stuff in school systems and whatever, especially special needs kids.
Well, let's just
Awful.
hope, moving forward that, through learning and education and teaching that people become more mindful and compassionate. And,
Yeah, definitely.
when they see something is wrong with a person, um, to try to seek them help.
Mhm. Definitely.
So, like I said, I think when you're dealing with narcissists, psychopaths, I think the best course of action is um, an escape plan. Just don't
Mhm.
involve yourself with them because I'm realizing very quickly that you can't change these people. You can't make them see
Mm-mm.
their behaviors are hurtful, disruptive. Um, it either doesn't exist in them, the compassion, it's not there. It will never, possibly never be there. Um, and to focus on self care.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
don't and like the doctor said is watch for your dosages. Stop going back to someone who talks or treats you badly um
Mhm.
in your life. If it's online, don't watch,
Right.
don't watch that person. You'll never
Exactly.
change it.
Nope. Well, and also, narcissists always have their flying monkeys and their followers. There's a saying that a narcissist never has a friend, they just have fans and followers.
Mm,
And they always will, because there will always be at least one right hand man at their side to sing their praises and to back them up. And there will be followers that fall on their every word. Some of them because they
why
really
do you
admire
think they
them.
do that? Do you
Huh?
think because why do you think they do that? Do you think because they're just as narcissistic, or is it part of that manipulation and charm and molding people to make them feel inferior? It just blows my mind.
I don't think that it is other narcissists that are drawn to them because that's rarely the case from what I've seen. Because narcissists don't like other narcissists. Like I said, there can't be two captains of the same ship. What they prey upon is the borderlines and the codependents and the dependent people.
Hmm.
So the people that their fans, if you will, are usually codependent people that have a need to take care of them and try to fix them, or somebody that's dependent on them that needs kind of a mentor higher up, which was my case, or someone that is just very insecure or borderline, that feels like they don't have a identity, and the narcissist tells them what their identity is,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Do
Oh,
you
we've
think
seen it all over YouTube, Sunflower. All over.
do you think some people, and I'll put it right out there on social media, do you think
Of
some
course.
people won't leave a person like that because they're afraid of repercussions?
Yeah, I think they're afraid of repercussions, and some people just think that they need to have that type of person that they can look up to and stand in awe of, even if they're a bad guy. Some people are attracted to the bad boys and the bad girls of the world because they're fascinating. They're different than everybody. And it makes them feel kind of like a name dropping thing. Well, I know so and so, and
And
I'm their friend.
they often themselves play the victim, correct?
Say that again.
Does a narcissist often play the victim?
Oh yes, of course. They flip flop from playing the victim to the hero, back and forth. The hero, the victim, the martyr, the rescuer, whatever role they can play to give them the attention, the narcissistic supply that they want, they'll play it. Definitely.
Pure
A pure
narcissist, two
two
ticks and
ticks
no
and no
dog.
dog. Yeah, that's cute and probably true. Two ticks and no dog. Wow. Yeah, it's kind of like that dance of codependency sort of thing that goes on. That is like two ticks and no dog now that I think about it. But yeah, definitely social media is very, very rife with narcissists because anybody can be anything they want on here. They can
That
look powerful.
you can create a whole new identity on
Definitely.
social media. You can you're the lead play character in the play.
Of course. Well, and it's all about personas with them, creating that false, powerful persona or the victim persona, whichever. Feel sorry for me or admire me. Either one, they'll take
Right.
whatever.
And if you watch at a lot of people's videos from when they first came to social
Hmm.
media, their voice was different. Their
Yep.
voice was, you know, um, it was like that honeymoon period, that love bombing,
Hmm.
and then give it 6 months or so, and then their voice changes,
Right.
which fascinates me, absolutely fascinates me, and, their
Hmm.
whole persona, and I remember talking to Danner about this, Danner a little bit once, and I said, "This social media stuff is really changing people to
Oh, yeah.
become worse," and she said to me, "No, Pink, you're just seeing who they really are," and I was
Yep.
like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, the mask fell off. That's what you're seeing is what's
Yeah,
under the mask.
and I kept blaming social media. "Oh, it's so toxic that it's actually getting people mad and changing them," and Tana was like, "No, this is who they really are." That was eye-opening,
Hmm.
eye-opening.
I mean, I
But
suppose some people it could change, though. Maybe not everybody is like that. Some people are probably primarily good, but they get on social media and they get addicted, like
yeah,
I
go back
did for
go
years.
back to their very first videos and check their behavior.
Yeah.
They're just love bombing and their voice is soothing and then fast forward, 6 months, a year to the present,
Hmm.
like, "Oh my god, that's not the person who first came on." Well, it is
Nope.
the person, it's just it was, yet like you said, a mask.
Very much. Yep. Definitely a mask, a whole whole other persona. I know with the mentor I was with, she would literally switch personalities, like completely switch. People don't get it. They're like, oh, well, people have different sides to their personality. I'm not talking about facets or sides to a personality. I'm talking about this person became a totally different individual. like about 4 different individuals. There was one where she would put her hair up in a ponytail, hop in her Jeep, and go like bebopping down the road like a little teeny bopper. There was one where she would go in her room and come out dressed in black and be like, I don't know what she was, kind of like a gothic person or something. I'm not sure. And then there was one where she was a minister where she would dress like in these really light colors, like an angel, and talk in this really lilting type of voice. I mean,
Jeez.
and she would switch like every day throughout the day. And I was like, okay, this is weird, but whatever.
She's still around, like, not with you, but doing the same thing, like, working
She's,
with that
as
church or
far as I know, she's not around. She's remarried and she's got stepdaughters now. And she's with a guy that's a race car driver now, and she seems to be happy, but I don't know. I don't talk to her and I don't really know anything about her. I don't have her on any social media. So I really don't know how her life is going, but she was with him when we talked last and she apologized to me for everything she put me through and stuff. So, but it was a weird kind of thing because it was like I'm apologizing because I feel guilty, and now that I've said all this, I'm done talking to you. Goodbye. It was like she just cut me off cold again. So it was like stabbed all over again. It was really weird. They're just very strange people. Toxic.
D, you're the fan here. You got a fan, lots of fans here. And if you don't have time, I understand. But Sunflower
No, I have
asked,
plenty of time.
could you address mirroring?
Mirroring. Um, that's a hard one. Let's see. Mirroring is when I think it's kind of like when they try to do everything you do. Yeah, this person did that with me actually, to the point where she took on my voice. She was kind of a preacher minister type person, and I had a certain way that I ministered to people, the way I read the Bible or prayed with people, and all of a sudden I would start hearing her sound exactly like me. It was really weird. She would also take on the persona of certain evangelists. I'm trying to think, there was Paula White was one of the evangelists. She would make her accent exactly like Paula White's accent. She would even dress like her. She mirrored everybody. And from the time a narcissist is a child, they mirror the mother usually. They'll try to be exactly what the mother is like and pick up their mannerisms, the way they move their hands and everything. So I did see a lot of that, kind of like copycatting, but like to a T,
They use it for
impersonation.
manipulation. It's a abuse tactic, right? For manipulation.
Yeah, they do use it for manipulating. They also use it kind of to create that identity. Because remember, they can't show you deep down inside that they have any flaws or that they're hurting. So they have to look like something that looks successful to them. That's also part of the name dropping and the projecting stuff that they do.
So it's basically used to create a rapport and
Yeah, it's almost like,
to feel like they're connected with you.
yeah, it was almost like an element of ventriloquism, if that even makes sense. Almost like how a ventriloquist throws their voice. Well, they throw their personality. Well, Nancy, I was guilty of having drama on my channel for a while too, so I know what you mean. It's easy to get sucked into that kind of stuff. The thing with me was I didn't like who I was becoming when I would be around narcissists. I was starting to become a lot like them. And I'm like, I don't not like people. I don't act mean towards people. That's not me. And that's part of their projecting. You start sounding like and looking like them after a while. That's why it's good to get away from them if you can. You don't want to become like that.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about, you are the company you keep, you
Hmm.
know. Um, there's another saying, like if you hang around with a person who limps, you too will limp.
Yeah.
It's just it's true. Like um, people, unfortunately, do judge you. You could be the best person in the world, but if you hang around with somebody um, who's not, I mean, you are looked at as a not so great person because whether it's the fact that you choose to hang around with people like that is basically saying that you're accepting those behaviors. um,
Right. Sarah was saying mirroring also involves appropriately reflecting back to another how they're feeling. It involves empathy. Not with a narcissist, it doesn't. But
I think
yes,
that's
that
the
is a type of
tactic they
mirroring.
use, a narcissist. They
What?
use it as a tactic to
Right.
make the person feel like they have empathy and
Yeah.
compassion, but it's used as a tactic.
Yeah. It's a
It's not
manipulation.
sincere. Yeah.
That's very true. I like the way Sunflower said they imitate others to establish themselves in your mind or in the relationships. Very true. Good way to put it.
Why do they obsessively stalk and hack? Stalk. Because that's what a narcissist does. You
Because
don't
they
even know
know that
their life, and,
empath,
and they'll try to find you to for that narcissistic supply, and then when if they give up, which like Dee said, they just find different people. The behaviors stay the same, but it's just with different people.
yeah. Well, and an empath feels things so deeply that they usually try to keep the peace, so to speak. And narcissists can manipulate them easily because they know they'll pretty much do their bidding just to keep things peaceful. Why do they obsessively stalk and hack? Stalking and hacking, well, the stalking is probably like the love bombing stage where they just constantly are around you, watching you, trying to see everything you're doing. The hacking sounds more like when they go into the devaluing stage where they punish you. They start destroying your items and things like that. There you go. Knitting artisan said it right because you cut them off before they were done using you. So they're
Yeah.
trying to punish you. That's true.
Everyone is being driven crazy around her right now because I won't speak to her. I don't care. I would just distance yourself from
Yeah.
all those people and get on with your life, or try to.
Yep.
Because they're
That's
going
all
to
you
do
can
what
do.
they're going to do, regardless if you're in it or out of their life. You know what I mean? You can't change people like that. They don't want to change. And you got two choices. You either stay engaged or you get the hell out of there.
Yep. They're wired that way. They're wired to seek that supply. And the thing with the narcissist is they're never satisfied. They never feel like they've reached any goal that they've tried to set up. They've never achieved anything that they're trying to achieve. They're never happy. And in fact, the narcissist told me that. She's like, I'm gonna need you online to send me jokes, to send me riddles, to send me things that you think will entertain me, but just so you know, nothing's gonna ever work because I'm never happy. And I never finish anything I start either because I get bored and disoriented and I don't want to do it anymore. She just never reached that place where it was enough, that place of satisfaction. Like you do
Yeah.
a project, it's done, and oh, look at what I did. And then you move on to the
Yeah.
next project. No, she never did that. She couldn't finish anything she started. Very strange to meet somebody like that. Yeah, like a black hole. They're just empty. It's just nothingness. They never achieve anything. They never feel satisfied with anything they do. She hated me for that because I was just a happy-go-lucky person, and it didn't take much to make me happy. She didn't understand that at all. She was never happy. Nothing was good enough. Nothing ever satisfied. And I used to say to her, do you ever reach that point of contentment where it's enough? She goes, no, I never have. There's always more. There's always something else. I'm like, wow,
It's
I couldn't
exhausting.
live like that.
It
Yeah, I
sounds
couldn't live like
exhausting.
that. It is, I'm sure. She's always depressed. No wonder,
It's exhausting for the victim too. I mean,
of course, because you can never measure up. You always feel like there's this elusive thing you're supposed to reach and you never get there.
hmm. Well, this was a good. I think this was a good conversation.
Yeah, I haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, take it. People take it for what it's worth. I mean, um, practice self care
Yep,
and remember, no matter how triggered you become in wanting to defend, yourself, whether in any relationship, they will never change.
mm-mm,
Um, and you want to stay safe. That's the most important thing. Is if you're in a relationship that is not safe, especially physically um, or your health, mental health is deteriorating, you need to find help. You need to get out. Um,
definitely.
oh,
Well,
well,
thanks for having me up, Pink. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
I'm so happy you came up.
Good to meet everybody, all these new faces and names I haven't ever seen.
Yeah. Whose wedding were you at? I saw your the wedding
That
picture.
was my ex-husband, the narcissist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's his wife, which she wasn't my friend before they met, but over time after he met her, we became friends. We talk on Facebook and, she's at family gatherings and stuff. So we became pretty close. She's a good lady. You better treat her right. That's all I can say. She's a wonderful lady. She doesn't deserve that, what I went
Is
through.
she aware of his
Well, um, I don't know because I haven't talked to her at length about how he used to be, but he's really not that person anymore because of the stroke. So
okay, that's right, yeah.
mentally, I don't think he's in that headspace anymore. But she's also a different person than I was. She's not raising children with him. She's very headstrong
Mhm.
and she can put him in his place. So maybe she'll do better. I don't know. She
Yeah.
was pretty happy about marrying him. I'm like, I gave her a hug and I said, yep, and he's still yours. Enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
But I guess they get along fine. So whatever. I don't, begrudge him anything or her. That's their
Mhm.
life. And time moved on. And eventually he was going to find somebody. He thought he was going to marry some of these really, seductive chicks online in cyberspace in all the dating places. I said,
Where
"Well, you
where
didn't get your, queen online, did you?"
where did he meet her?
Through a dating service online, one of
Oh,
the many dating things online.
yeah.
Yeah, and she's local, though, so I don't know how that all worked. I don't know exactly how he met her, but I think that's what he told me. That's how he met all of the ladies he talked to, but they were all these other people that were probably half of them scammers. Those real pretty ladies that, "Oh, I need your help. I'm over here in another country. If you send me $10,000, I can get back home and we can go out." And he bought it hook, line, and sinker twice.
Oh,
Spent my
wow.
brother-in-law's money on it till my brother-in-law stopped giving him money.
Jeez.
Oh, I guess they want you to drop the link to my channel.
Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, it was a good wedding, but it was very plain. It was Baptist and very conservative, and so nobody really wanted to get up and dance, which was a bummer because I love to dance at weddings. It's like one of my favorite things.
Could you
But
have danced if you wanted to?
well, my daughters got up and danced, but I thought they were just doing like a wedding type thing that only included the party, the wedding party. So I didn't get up, but my daughter Carol's like, "Mom, you could have gotten up and danced." I said, "Well, you should have come and got me. You know I would have." It was funny because all these little old Baptist people, like old Baptist people, were just standing there staring at my daughters, going, "What are they doing?"
Hmm.
It's not like popular for them to dance like that,
Yeah. Okay, I
especially
dropped
not
the
the
link.
elderly.
I dropped the link to Dee's channel.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, come on over and visit me. And if you like it, stay. If you don't, what can I tell you? Some people can't stand me, some people adore me. Story of my life
Yeah, you've been on YouTube a long time.
since 2008. Yep, I've seen some things. It's definitely gone downhill over the years.
Does anybody want a link to share or anything before I go? I'm glad you guys came. I learned a lot too. I'm no expert, but again, through just, um, looking up
No.
reputable websites or you get the basics.
Hmm.
And at least, it opens a discussion and it brings
Yeah,
people together. Um,
that's true. Thanks,
a lot of
Sarah.
people here who've shared similar experiences and um, yeah, thanks,
Yeah, and I,
Sarah.
I feel like, I I did go through a lot, and if I can help spare anybody from having to go through that, I will, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and that's part of it too. Is just um,
Thank you,
teaching
knitting artisan.
teaching others, what to look for, or and especially where you said what's so important is self care, to keep your identity and
Yeah.
um,
Oh, another thing I was going to tell you that I kind of got sort of back into. I was studying the 12 tribes for a while, which is that cult all over the world at this point. And
it's a
there's a
call.
girl on YouTube. Her name is Jilly Beans. She was in the cult for 8 years, raised her children there, and
What's
now
it
she's
called?
trying to put her life back together. Jilly Beans, JILLYBEENZ.
Oh, so
So
it's a
check.
church, 12 Tribes Communities.
Yeah, it's a cult where they beat babies and children and
Oh, Jesus.
abuse people, and
Kinda
yeah, it's
steep.
not cool. Looks great on the outside, but living there, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that's not cool. But I've been kind of talking to her in emails and stuff, and she's trying to heal her heart from when she abused her kids because
Oh,
that's what the cult demands. And she's trying to learn how to let them think for themselves and not expect them to act on command type of thing.
thank God
So
she got out.
I know after 8 years. So I've been talking with her a little bit. I'd love to interview her, but she won't do it. She already told me, and she doesn't know anybody else that will either. They're very protective of other people that are there. They don't want them hurt. Yes, they have a restaurant there, I'm sure, Knitting Artisan. The Yellow Deli. Yep. Do I know about Merb? I know a little bit about Merb. I know that she's not who I thought she was, apparently. The last thing I knew was something about her dog. She took a video of her dog that died, and people were very upset. And I stood by her, and then I realized that I don't think all that glitters is gold there. I think there's more to this lady than what I'm seeing. and I
That's
don't
what
watch
she
her channel.
says. That's what she says. Not all that glitters is gold.
Oh, well, that's the saying I've always used, so I
Yeah.
guess she says it too. But, well, maybe she's telling on herself, I don't know. I don't watch her, so I don't really know anything about her.
Yeah,
I
don't.
I watched her way back when during the Chris Watts thing when everybody was talking about that, but I didn't, like, watch her religiously or anything, just watched her a couple times. She just wasn't my cup of tea. I don't know. Her
Yeah.
mannerisms are kinda weird to me. You eat their food, don't let them talk to you about the Bible. Yeah, that's probably safer that way because it's their version of the Bible that's kind of a bit controlling and off, I would say.
Do they at least have good food?
They have delicious food. They're very talented. They make all things by hand and yeah, they're very talented. They also have child labor within their
Oh my
tribe.
god, there's one in my state.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's one in almost every state. They're all over the
temporary in Plymouth,
Yep, yep.
temporarily closed.
Yeah, at one point they took the children away from them, but then they gave them back saying they didn't have enough evidence that they were being beaten, even though there were beating sticks on every doorway. So go figure. It's crazy. I will say one thing, somebody on one of the Facebook groups that I'm on for the 12 tribes posted some of their music and it's absolutely beautiful, which is why they get sucked into it. Their music is absolutely gorgeous. It would suck me in if I didn't know better. You just
Oh, there's
wanted
one
my
in
insight.
Boulder, Colorado. Yeah, there's about 15 of them worldwide.
Oh, you wanted my insight about Merb? I don't know enough about her to say much. She seems very full of herself from my impression the few times I've been in there, but I don't really know her well enough to say for sure. I would have to be up close and personal, and she's not really somebody I want to get that close to to know anything.
Don't,
I
don't.
already know Pink doesn't like her. That's enough for me. I've been friends with Pink forever. Pink and I go way back, what, 2017? Something like that.
Uh, 18 when I first came onto YouTube.
18.
Yeah,
Okay.
December of
Yeah.
2018.
Yeah. So I trust your judgment. If you're saying something's off about her, it's enough for me.
Yeah, yeah. I don't watch her a lot, only if I feel like I have to.
Right.
I would watch her, like, to pick up her mannerisms to do parody, but
Hmm.
even doing parody of her, it drains the hell out of me, D. It just, you
I know.
know,
I heard you say
well,
that one night.
yeah, and to be miserable, I just feel like I have to act like a mean girl,
Ugh.
but it gives people some comic relief, so that's why I'll
Mm,
do it, but,
right.
it's not something that I look forward to.
No, I would imagine not. I understand. There's people I've done parodies of that drain me too, so I get it. All right. Well, maybe I'll meet with y'all again sometime. I'm gonna.
Yeah, thank you so
Oh,
much.
hey,
Hey,
main girl.
yeah, if anyone wants to come up, there's the link pinned to the top. Uh, Dee, thanks you so much for coming up. It was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for
Wealth
having
of
me.
information, and everyone seemed to enjoy you. So,
Thanks. I'm glad. It's nice to
yeah,
be enjoyed again after all the hatred I've gotten over the time.
we all get it. Everyone gets a turn or two or three
Ugh,
on
I've had
YouTube.
too many turns. I don't want
I
turns
know.
anymore on that.
I've been through
All
hell.
right. Well, hopefully I'll see you guys over on my channel sometime. I don't go on regularly, but when I'm on, check me out and I'll
Yeah,
see you soon. Be
thanks.
blessed.
Thanks,
Shalom.
Dee. All right, shalom. Hey, Ivy, you have to go to bed. Sleep well. Last call. Last call. Hey, Purple Rose. Still got the muffler? Yes, I do. It's sitting right next to me on the floor. I took the napkins, the decoupage off because I stuck it on my muffler with duck sauce, with Chinese duck sauce. I believe in all natural products. Beats Mod Podge. Yeah, Joshua, you want to come up? And thanks for everyone who watched my twat video. Um, Let me show it again. Twat has different meanings, so it's not a bad word to use. I've always used it. Hi, Jenny. I've always used it. And, when I came to YouTube, it was like, oh my God, you said that word. I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with it? It can mean a stupid person, idiotic, obnoxious. It can mean other things. So let's watch. Hold on. Find my channel. It's a very short video, right to the point. Hey, Joshua. Hold on. Oh, you gotta. Oh, add to stream. Hey, Joshua, how are you?
What's up? How's it going?
Good. How you doing?
Oh, I'm very well, aside from the fact of having to deal with her every single day, sun up to sundown, listening to her through a hacked phone, everything I watch, everything I do. When I'm in the shower, there's cameras in my home. I'm not a schizophrenic. I'm not mentally ill at all. There's cameras in my home. I hear through the TV. I have to deal with this 24/7, and it's absolutely disgusting,
Is
absolutely
is
sickening.
this your wife or a girlfriend or?
Ex girlfriend.
Damn. Yeah,
Yes,
I've been reading your comments.
yes.
Can you get a
3 years,
restraining order?
huh?
Can you get a restraining order?
I mean, yeah, I'm sure I can. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awful. I mean, what do you do in a person like that? I mean, yeah,
I,
move.
I'm I mean, it's not gonna stop, and it's just I shouldn't have to be living like this. I
No.
shouldn't have to be dealing with this every day, day in and day out. And she absolutely cannot accept no for an answer. I went
How,
no contact 3 years ago, and I have not spoken with her. And I made it in my heart, mind, and soul that I would never speak to her ever again. And I will not. I refuse to. And there are flying monkeys that are spitting at me, snorting at me, absolutely just thinking that I'm the most selfish piece of shit because I will not speak to her. And I don't care about any of their feelings because the level of monstrosity that these people cause me is absolutely insane. And I don't care about any of their feelings at all. I don't. And they all want me they're all being driven they're all being driven mentally insane because I won't speak to her. And it's people that are literally just like begging, dude, please speak to her. And it's not going to happen. I refuse. It is not going to happen, and she cannot accept it. She just absolutely cannot accept it.
it seems like it might even fall under the anti-stalking laws.
I mean, I would think so, you know.
Have you gone to the police, or do you
No,
know?
but that's the problem. She has cop friends, corrupt police, like cop help, having this done with police help, which is absurd. Yeah,
She
yeah,
sounds she sounds dangerous, because women like that can
yes,
actually go to the police and falsely accuse you of something, you know?
yes, yes. She's very dangerous.
Yeah, someone asked, how is she putting cameras in your home?
Um, I know that that's a crazy analogy for, I know most people would be like, are you okay? Are you sure? Because she has police pull in this town through community oriented policing, and she has a lot of help. And so, through that, they have contractors, private contractors. They have so many people that are in that program, federal, local, state, tons of people. And so, how I know is because
Oh,
there's been contractors that have come in this home, and there's been a person that came and hooked the Wi-Fi up. And I know that y'all are about to say, whoa, wow, but you can look on the TV in my home, and on the TV it says Louisiana State Police on the TV in my home.
you know
And I'm
something,
just like, this is absurd. Yeah, what's
Joshua?
what's up?
There's a woman that lives in my state. I came
Uh-huh.
across, I forget her YouTube channel, but there's a
Uh-huh.
name for that, where they monitor you,
Yes.
uh and I forget what she called it. Damn it.
Gang
Uh
stalking.
no, had something to do with, it's not like 5G shit. It was something else, where it was through electronics.
Oh yeah, I mean, she's watching this right now. You can hear her breath in the background. She's watching this right now through my hacked phone. She's watching this. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you in a position where you can actually leave your state?
Yes, I am. I have enough money to go, and it's the job situation that's a
Right.
bit of a that's a definite, like, I would have to have a job. I definitely have enough money to leave, but it's the job situation. But I I mean, I've been told by her, you'll never have another woman. You'll never have another woman ever again, which is lies from the devil. But like, this woman is insane. She is truly insane. She is mentally insane.
Someone wants to know who owns the house you live in.
Yeah, it's my land. It's a halfway house, which I've been ready to get out of the program because I've been sober for a long time. And
Congratulations.
thank you so much. And I'm so ready to go. And and it's like, this is where else it's going to come into play. She keeps punishing me because I want nothing to do with her. So I'm already prepared that when I go to try and look for an apartment or a trailer or a rental home, I'm already prepared that she's going to put a block and have her cop friends tell people, nope, nope, he's not welcome. Don't allow him in there. He's not allowed to get a home. So it's coming to the point where it's like, if I can't have my own place, because I want my child to be able to come and stay with me. He's 13. He's my heart. He's my world. But it's coming to the point where it's like, if I can't have my own place, I'm going to have to leave this state. I'm going to have to get out of here.
Can you, through the program you're in, can
Mhm.
they network to a out of state, um, halfway? Are you in sober living, or is it a halfway house?
So sober. It's sober living. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. just to get settled somewhere,
Yeah.
and work through sober living.
Uh-huh. I mean, I could definitely find out, it's definitely worth a shot, but this is insane. I mean, and I'm a very positive person. I've changed my life completely. Like,
You.
I'm a happy guy. Even, I mean, I'm stalked, I'm hacked, I'm harassed, and I still smile. I still laugh because that's who I am. But it's getting very disgusting having to deal with her, hearing her in the background every day. It's enough to make me want to vomit.
I'm trying to find that video where that woman was talking about the same kind of stuff. I know a lot of people, think, "Oh, this is not believable," but um, can't find it. Shit. I would just try your best to set up, a job, or get yourself into sober living. Um, I know there are
Yeah.
rent-free sober livings. Well, they actually some take money, but they keep it in a savings. There's a lot available. I would see if you could transfer to another state, another sober living, just to get
True.
settled housing.
And I mean, and that's a very good point. And I mean, I really don't care. I know that she's going to know anywhere I go because of her network, and that's fine. I really don't care, but I just want to be hundreds of miles away from her.
Do you see her? Does she show up?
No, I have not seen her in 3 years, and I do not want to see her. Yep.
Yeah, it's a sober living sober living home.
And they put it, how their feelings are facts, right? So they're very delusional people. So they put it in their minds like, how dare he or she leave me? How dare they move on without me? And it's just now that I'm learning so much about narcissism, which I have for probably the last year, which is like, it's like a light bulb has just gone off because my whole family was narcs my whole entire life and I didn't know it. And now I'm just like, and the veil's been lifted.
It's like an awakening. Yeah.
Yes. I had a spiritual awakening probably 2 years ago. And it was the most amazing thing ever because God started showing me so many things within her that she was hiding and within my family that they were hiding. And it was just so amazing. It was like, hallelujah. And it happened so fast. God just started showing me visions and things that just flashing before my eyes. Boom, boom, boom. And he started showing me so much. And, a lot of people don't understand that in the world, but then there are people that do. It was the most amazing thing that happened to me. And ever since that happened, I cut her off because I knew all the nasty, dirty, and vile things that she had done to me. So I completely cut her off. And now she absolutely cannot handle it. Like it's her ego. Her ego just cannot accept that I want nothing to do with her. Yep.
Yeah, you need to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to leave at this point and get the hell away from whatever she's doing.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
And sober living houses typically it's against the law in my state. I'm from Massachusetts, the Boston area. You can't
Uh-huh.
have cameras in homes
No,
that
no,
invades privacy.
no. And I don't care if she has police friends because it's still illegal to hack someone and watch them day in and day out. That is illegal.
Well, can't you like go to the FBI? Can you go above your local law enforcement?
Well, the thing is have y'all heard about people that are blacklisted and put on a government watch list? Have y'all ever done research in that?
Yeah.
I'm on a blacklist. She blacklisted me, which means the Department of Justice, the feds, the police, they all watch me because of her. And like, I'm not crazy. I don't do anything. I stay in my own lane. I mind my own business. But she blacklisted me to where when they do that, they can monitor you at all times, which is completely fine with me. That doesn't bother me at all because I'm used to it now. I'm followed, I'm harassed in stores, whole 9 yards, which that doesn't even bother me. The only thing that bothers me is having to deal with her through my phone.
Mm. Well, what does
Yeah.
she do through your phone?
Huh?
What does she do through the phone?
I mean, she doesn't talk. I can just hear her breathe. She listens. She listens and watches every single thing that I watch. Any videos that I watch on YouTube, any music that I listen to, just she watches. And she is mentally psychotic. Like when I get up to go and like move something in my bedroom or I'm at work, she's watching me while I'm at work. Or when I get up just to move or do anything, you can hear the excitement in her voice. She'll go, she'll do that all day and night. I hear that. It's like she gets excited to see me move things, do what I'm doing. And it's absolutely sick. It's creepy. It's mind blowing and it's disgusting.
Zelda, he needs to move to Boring, Oregon. 30-minute
Yeah.
police response out here. Police response. It's crazy. No, it's crazy here in Boston too. Wouldn't recommend
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can go live somewhere where there's no internet.
Right.
Yeah, live off the grid.
I mean, I've thought about that, honestly. I know that I'm going to be watched by her the rest of my life, and I've accepted it because that's just the way that it's going to be. But I mean, people have told me they do give up in due time, but when? It's been 3 years. It's like, when are you going to give up? It's like people have said that they will eventually move on to another victim, but this has been 3 years and she's married and she watches me with her husband. How absurd is that?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't let it get to me too much, but here lately I can honestly say that it's been, yeah, it's definitely been mental. It's definitely been annoying the hell out of me in the last couple of days.
Yeah, I bet. Sounds like a nightmare.
It is.
I wish I had
And
the answer. I
I
don't know.
know.
Yeah.
I know. And they think it's a joke. They think it's funny. And that's what's so disgusting. They think that this is funny. And I appreciate y'all listening.
How could she have that much power to blacklist you with the government watch list? How does someone have that much power?
Because she's been working for the federal government since she was young, very young. And she's one of their pawns, and she does a lot of work for them. And so she's also a Freemason. She's actually, I believe, an Eastern Star. And, you know, I believe her mother was a major factor that taught her a lot. I believe she learned a lot from her mother, plus corrupt federal agents that are her friends. And so really it's like, I know that's a lot of crazy shit that I'm telling y'all, but a lot of people would be like, is that guy okay? But no, it's a lot more in depth that I like could go on and on about, but I'm not. But it's definitely very sickening, you know, very sickening. Yeah.
I'm sorry you're going through this.
I really appreciate it. I'm very tough. You know, God is I'm very spiritual. God is my rock. God is what helps me get through this every day. But she's sick. She's truly sick. And yeah, she's sick. She's a sick person. Yep.
Hopefully, hopefully eventually she'll stop. I mean,
yeah.
But
I don't know when.
Creepy that she watches with her husband. Like, what's up with that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't understand that. You know why? Because of the triangulation. She's getting him jealous, and she's getting him pumped up, and she's probably telling him, oh, my ex did this better than you, and he did that better than you. And I mean, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure that's probably a major factor in it. And so I'm sure that pisses him off. And so I don't understand it. They both watch me together. And I just it blows my mind. I do not understand it at all.
Do you know anybody? Like, I know there's a community out there because I've seen it on YouTube. I just can't locate it, where people have literally experienced exactly what you're saying. And I know a lot of people are thinking this is crazy, but there's some theories out there, and I don't know if you've hooked up or been able to find some people who are going through the same thing.
Because, like, I don't have a problem with her husband at all. I've never met the guy, but I don't have a problem with him, like, at all. I'm just like, that's your wife, dude. You can have her. I don't want her. You know? I'm like, that's yours, buddy. She's all yours. I don't want her. I don't want nothing to do with her. You can have her. I'm not coming after her. I'm not attracted to her anymore. I have nothing for her. She's yours. That's your wife.
You don't share the same child, do you?
No, thank God. No.
Well, congratulations on your sobriety.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Not easy. Nancy Drew says she wishes you peace in your life.
Tell her I said thank you.
Yeah, she heard you. She heard you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God is great. God is amazing. And I know that He's always going to get me through everything. But
That's right. He'll protect you. Yeah.
absolutely. I know He does. It's just here lately, I've wanted to just, and I've got some anger like built up on the inside. And I think like, I just want to be like, I don't know. Here lately, I've wanted to just go in the woods and just be able to scream at the top of my lungs, just like, ah, and let it all out because every day of having to deal with her. And of course, I don't have to deal with her, but every day of having to hear her makes me want to just, it's just sickening. It makes me want to throw up. It makes me want to just, it disgusts me. Yep.
Jenny Barnes says freedom of information requests on her file along with IVO. I have no idea what that means.
Huh. Freedom of info request.
That's freedom of information.
Yeah, freedom of information, yeah. Oh.
All right, I do have to end this live. I gotta get up early in the morning. Joshua, thanks for coming up. Really, we wish you the best.
Absolutely, thank you.
You know, keep God with you. You'll be all right.
Absolutely, I will be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tonder wants to know how did you find my channel?
I was just scrolling through YouTube.
Cool. Oh, well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Joshua, take care. Thanks for coming up.
I'll too. Y'all have a great night.
Yeah, come back again. And everyone in chat, hey, thanks for being a part of this. It was really, really eye-opening. You know, yeah. You know, we can learn a lot. And, you know, self-care. Take care of yourselves. You know?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, everyone. Thanks again, Joshua. Thanks, Steve.
Not a problem.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Night, y'all.
All right. Bye.